Hello all. Today, I started stream on time and I did the intro alone for 10 minutes because I thought that I was live, but in actuality, the start stream button was off. As it turns out, I was offline, I was not streaming at all, and I was talking into the wind. How tragic is that? I had a really good intro as well, but now it's all gone. Oh well. I'll see if I can't summon a bit of that up for you. So, let me start from the beginning. I, like many of you, I am sure... Oh, for God's sake. And now I'm looking down at my sandwich. I was going to do a bit where I eat food to say I like food, but they've left the pickles in again. Oh my God. I am very cross about that. I'm very cross about that indeed. Well, this has just been a swimming start. This has just been an excellent start to the day. All right. Sorry, class. Let's go again. Pipe down, everyone. Pipe down. I, like many of you, love to eat food. Food is a cultural touchstone for every single nation around the world. In fact, food is so important, as we all need to eat it in order to survive, that it influences the development of cultures in many ways that we perhaps could never possibly understand. One of my favorite tidbits of information is the way that, theoretically, the difference between a nation that mainly deals with wheat and grain is different from that which mainly deals with rice. And they have influenced cultural structure and ergo cultural attitudes throughout history. This is really interesting to me, but what we're going to learn about today is British food. See, I am from the United Kingdom. I'm from the UK, and the UK, for some reason, has a fascinatingly bad reputation when it comes to food. A lot of people outside the UK don't understand just how brilliant British food is. Now, I am not British by blood. I moved here 100 years ago in order to enjoy a lot about this country that I have come to find very beautiful over the years, right? Part of that includes food. I love British food. British food, for me, is mainly about heartiness, it's about warmth, and it's about community. British food is all about bringing people together, and more than anything, it's about the survival of the working class, and it's about staving off the cold winters that we experience as well. Warmth, heartiness, and community is how I would describe British food. And I'm going to teach you about all kinds of different British food today, as well as the places that you can come to buy them. If you ever have the great luxury of coming to visit the United Kingdom, then I would very much recommend you listen on, and I can give you a hand with where to go and what to look for if you would like to buy and eat some delicious British cuisine. So let's relax and get stuck in. I'm going to try and continue speaking slowly so that we can all follow along. And even though I add Japanese text to the titles and tweet in Japanese and so on and so forth, these streams are for everyone. If you're ESL, if you're learning English from any language in the world, these streams are for you. If you know even the littlest bit, I'm here to help you. Whether you're from Japan, China, Southeast Asia, Europe, South America, Africa, wherever it is, this is for you. Heike, thank you very much for the super. You just had pie and mash. bang up fucking job, that. Bang up job. And I'm going to have a bite of my sandwich, and then we're going to get started. Hopefully, the pickle taste isn't too impactful. Not bad. Not bad. It's very improper for a gentleman to eat with his talk with his mouth full. But I'm here to teach you. And teaching is very hungry work. So I'll slowly work through that as we go. All right. Allow me to get back into position away from my sad away from my sad little podium, my sad little soapbox where I told you all about my lonely start to stream. But we can get a move on. Okay. First of all, let's talk about some British food. First of all, we'll go for the alphabet as well. Afternoon tea. I'm sure very many of you are very familiar with afternoon tea. But afternoon tea is a British tradition that involves, is usually eaten between 4 and 5 o'clock, and it involves a multi-tiered display. 3 plates are stacked in the configuration that you see here, and typically you would begin with the bottom plate. Usually this is sandwiches, many different types of sandwiches. The point of afternoon tea is to enjoy a wide variety of tastes, and afternoon tea is quite a luxury. It can be pretty expensive, but I always think it's worth it if you have the opportunity to try some. If you come to the UK, usually this will be served in hotels and sometimes in cafes, restaurants, and all kinds of places. It's usually squirreled away, and the best way to find it is simply to go online and look up afternoon tea near me. Usually, you'd start with sandwiches on the bottom plate, then move up to something more sweet in the middle plate. I usually like to go for scones. Frosted scones with jam and cream, and then lastly on top, you would have macarons or something very, very sharp and tangy and sweet. So that's afternoon tea. It's quite broad. There's a lot that you can have with afternoon tea, but if you haven't had it already, I'd very much recommend it. And I believe in many parts of the world, you can enjoy afternoon tea without coming to the UK. So if you get the chance, I'd highly recommend it. Now we're into some real classics. Bangers and mash. You might look at this and think, well, what on earth is a banger? Well, I'll tell you. What you see here are some sausages mixed in with mashed potatoes, peas, and some lovely caramelized onions. But the main ingredient is the mashed potato and the sausages. Now, why do the British call sausages bangers? Does anybody know? Can anybody tell me? Well, they're called bangers because at the time, about 100 or so years ago, during the First World War, when these were a really, really important part of a working class man or a soldier's diet, these sausages were made with very, very cheap meat. And what this tended to mean is that they had a high water content. Usually the insides of the sausage casing were filled with moisture, and so when you cooked them, the casing would rupture and it would make a loud hissing, popping, or banging sound, and hence they earned the name a banger. And now we have bangers and mash. Bangers and mash, for me, is one of the absolute best things that British cuisine has to offer. Mainly, you have to make sure that you enjoy this with a beautiful gravy. A hearty, meaty, salty gravy, mixing in with the mash, chopping those sausages up and shoveling them into your mouth with the mash and the gravy and the peas and everything else. This is an absolute favorite of mine. Now, I just remembered, today I've got a little something special for you. We're going to liven this all up a little bit Also, I haven't been able to fix chat, so unfortunately you guys will be invisible today unless you'd like to be vertical. It is up to you. Check it out. British food tier list, everybody. So, in fact, I'm going to try not spoiling it for you. I'm going to hide the stuff on the bottom. We have 6 tiers today. From best to worst, they are the S tier, scrumptious, A tier for ace, B for bangin', C for cracking, D for dicey, which means and M for mingin', which means disgusting, absolutely revolting. I don't think anything is going in the mingin' tier today, but I wanted to put that word on there because it's a really good word. It would be spelled minging, but nobody pronounces it that way. The pronunciation is mingin'. To start with, afternoon tea has to go in the ace tier. I feel it's too broad to put in S tier all on its own because some afternoon teas can be excellent, whereas others can be subpar. But in concept, afternoon tea, enjoyed with a nice glass of champagne, is always something to be enjoyed. However, bangers and mash, for me, oh, please tell me I remember to put the image of bangers and mash in the tier list. Oh, if this was the only one I forgot, I'm going to be so upset. I thought I had them all. Am I blind? I must be blind. Nope. Okay, one moment. I'm going to have to add the bangers and mash image. Oh, Vox Akuma, you silly man. Where are those bangers and mash hiding? Oh, I know what it is. I added the bangers and mash retroactively. There they are. Bangers and mash are going straight into scrumptious tier. It's no. This is going to be a bit of a running theme that you may notice. A working man's food, anything that is simple yet powerful in flavor and something that is easy to make and that it's cheap to buy, tends to be the best of what British food has to offer. British food has, I think this goes for many cultures around the world, British food has been defined by the working class. A lot of cheap food, poor food from throughout history has grown to become a delicacy within our cuisine, and I think that everybody from the UK enjoys these meals in much the same way. It's from the absence of expensive ingredients and from the need for ingenuity that the working classes have been able to develop such fantastic food. And bangers and mash is one of the chief among them. I think bangers and mash is an instant scrumptious tier for me. But let's get back to the next one. So, after bangers and mash, we have beans on toast. Beans on toast is subject to a lot of ridicule, a lot of meanness. Beans on toast is the god of student food. It is the king of quick food. Many people love to have a little bit of a laugh, make fun of beans on toast, but beans on toast is very quick, cheap to make, easy to make, and it's full of protein, and it will fill you right up. All it is you put some baked beans, take them out of the tin, put them in a saucepan, heat them up, layer them over some toast, and you're done. The beans and the sauce is tasty, it's hearty, it's warming. The toast gives you your carbs, the beans give you your protein. It's delicious, and it's bloody easy. So I don't want to hear any lip from any of you. Hey, quiet in the back, class, quiet in the back. In this class, we respect beans on toast. All right? Don't knock it till you try it, bro. Okay? Beans on toast is an excellent meal, and it is the perfect way to enjoy a quick lunch if you're very busy. All right? Absolutely no sark, no lip from any of you lot. And now I'm going to have another bite of my sandwich because I'm really hungry. It is my classroom, and I can eat if I fancy it. So, as for the tier list, beans on toast, for me, goes in cracking tier. Yes, it's incredibly simple, but it's a staple of British cuisine. It's very much beloved by everybody who has ever actually taken the time to try it. But it's not as though it's a cultural masterpiece. It's there, it's reliable, and it's tasty. I don't like beans. Well, too bad. I eat beans almost every day, but it's only beans and toast. I wouldn't try it. You wouldn't try beans on toast? Nice crispy toast with it's like anything on toast. It's like a warm spread. It's delicious. I don't understand you people. I don't understand you at all. Next up. Bubble and squeak. Oh, bubble and squeak yet again is another wonderful gift from the ingenuity of the working class. Bubble and squeak is character. You know what? I've not had bubble and squeak in such a long time, but I remember having such positive memories of this food. So you see, bubble and squeak is a dish that mainly is made from potatoes and cabbage. And it's mixed together with mainly leftovers. It's a brilliant way of compressing down a lot of your leftovers and turning it into a big mixture of everything that you have left in the pantry that you need to eat. Quite in the same way, I'm sure a lot of you will use up your leftovers in stir fry, perhaps. I like to do the same. If I have lots of leftover vegetables or anything like that and I need to use it up, stir fry, for example, is a great way of doing it. A lot of people from the British working class with potatoes and cabbage left over will make it into bubble and squeak, and it tends to be a very hearty, very nutritious meal. Which, yet again, is easy and very, very cheap to make. And that, as you'll notice, is going to be a running theme as we go forward. As for bubble and squeak, for me, bubble and squeak is going to go straight into the bangin' tier for bubble, the B tier for bubble and squeak. Again, this goes in B tier because it can be a mixed bag. It does depend very much on what you include in order to use up those leftovers, but the best bubble and squeak is some of the best that you can see. It's some of the best food that you can have, at least as far as I'm aware. But of course, it always comes down to what you're able to make it with. Why is it called that? It's because that's the sound it makes. You got squeaky cabbage in there, and you got the, I don't really know where the bubble comes from. But remember, food writer Howard Hillman classed this as one of the great peasant dishes of the world. It is one of the greatest inventions that the British poor came up with at the time, and we owe them a lot. We owe them a lot. It's true that in art, suffering does result in more profound work, and I think that that's very much the case with people who had so little, striving to try and find food that was tasty and nutritious when they had so little to eat. I'm old enough to remember a time when you would usually only eat at breakfast and at dinner, and would be starving all the way throughout the day, and the feeling of getting home and finally having dinner is, you were really, really ravenous, really fucking desperate to have some food. And I can't imagine working a really, really hard manual labor job and being paid so little without delicious, warming food like this. It's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine. But let's move on. We've got a real classic coming up next. The Cornish pasty. Now, the Cornish pasty hails from Cornwall in Devon, but it's enjoyed all the way around the country. A Cornish pasty is a thick, crispy, flaky pastry that is filled with meat, potatoes, carrots, vegetables, all kinds of really delicious, salted, spicy, beautiful meats. And again, it's simple, but it's filled with nutrition, and it is so delicious. Now, Cornish pasties, usually the best ones come from Cornwall. If you're in Cornwall, you want to see the beach, you're going down to enjoy the sights down there, that's where you're going to be able to find the best Cornish pasties, but you will be able to find them in Cornish pasty shops. If you go on the high street, try and find an independent Cornish pasty shop or just a pasty shop and see if you can get one to take away. Eat it on the spot, and you're really, really going to enjoy it. I promise you. If we go back to our tier list, for me, the Cornish pasty, oh boy. Cornish pasty, that's a scrumptious tier. The Cornish pasty is just absolute peak. Such a staple, such an iconic piece of food. There's not much else to say about it. It's the fact that it's a full meal that can instantly be enjoyed on the go. It's not too expensive, and it's just really, really nice. So I'd hard recommend, if you can, try a Cornish pasty, no matter where you are in the UK, but especially if you're in Cornwall. Digestives. Now, this is a common debate among British people. What biscuits do you dip in your tea? There's a lot of conflicting opinion about this. Some prefer the lighter, crispier, rich tea biscuits, and some even enjoy a chocolate digestive. There are other biscuits that I also really like hobnobs, which are oaty and very sugary. But for me, nothing beats the classic. McVitie's digestive biscuits are the absolute pinnacle of a warm, chunky, filling biscuit that really soaks up your tea. So if you are having a cup of tea while you're in the UK, one of the best things that you can do is to get some of these biscuits, and while the tea is hot and you're waiting for it to cool down, dunk your biscuit in for just a moment, let it soak up some of the tea, and then eat it, and you'll get a lovely taste of the biscuit and all of the lovely sugars and spices that are baked into these things, and you'll enjoy a little bit of that tea before it's managed to cool down all the way. Now, digestives, biscuits are important to us. Biscuits are important to anyone who likes to drink tea in this country. But for me, I would say these go in cracking tier, because obviously it depends very much on how they are enjoyed. Now, they're not really used like cheesy crackers. You tend not to put anything on them. You definitely could, but to me, I just sort of enjoy these with tea. And because I'm a bit of a fan of dry food, I do tend to have digestives on their own, and people think I'm a bit weird for this, but I think they're really, really nice. All right. Next up, also, I get quite passionate when I talk about these things. If I'm ever speaking too fast, do let me know. I'll do my best to slow back down. Eton Mess. Eton Mess is a dessert originating from Eton College, which is a very expensive private school and a very iconic, well-known private school. Eton Mess is made with fruit, meringue, which was a later addition, and strawberry sauces and whipped cream. The name Eton obviously comes from the school that it originated from, but the mess could refer either to its appearance, the fact that it's a big blob of loads of yummy sweet things, but also it could refer to a mess hall or mess tent, which is where people would go in school or in the army to go and enjoy some food. Now, Eton mess is a very popular dessert. I've not had too much of this myself, but it is a really, really nice, very sugary treat. I think that this is the kind of thing that a lot of kids in the UK only enjoy every once in a while. Meringue, for me, is one of my favourite little sugary treats, and getting a bit of crispy, crunchy meringue in some Eton mess is really, really nice. So for me, especially considering its cultural origins, I'm a little apprehensive to put it too high, given that Eton is such an elite school, but Eton mess for me has to go in banging tier. Eton mess is brilliant, and it's, if you have the ingredients, it's very simple to make. You just blob it all together. Next, also let's try some different music. I've got some other music ready. This is all Mozart we're enjoying today. I wanted to find some English classical, but Mozart really stuck out to me. Let's try this one. Oh, lovely. All right. Next up, fish and chips. Fish and chips is far and away the most iconic and well-recognized piece of British cuisine around the world. Fish and chips is delicious, it is affordable, it has been a staple in British cuisine for at least 100 years. This is what it's all about. If you can find a local chippy, a local fish and chip shop, get it wrapped up in some of that newspaper, enjoy it either, whether you like it with tartar sauce, whether you enjoy it with that little slice of lemon, get yourself one of those pucker pies they have down there. Nothing quite beats this. The batter is so crispy. The batter is so crispy, the fish is flaky and it's warm and it's moist, and there's no there's also this piece of stock footage is this stock photo is wrong. Actually, I've just noticed this. Those chips you see there are fake. Those are fries. I'm going to have to change this because this is culturally inaccurate. If you would give me one moment. Now, I love this because of the newspaper, and you have the, a very accurate cut of fish here, but the chips are very much inaccurate as far as I've seen. This is a failed imitation of the chips that you would get, and chips are half the deal. This looks better. This looks better. Yeah, this gives you a better idea. Well, I want to give you an accurate idea of what it's like. See, the UK is becoming more and more Americanized as time goes on. And so we do have a lot of French fries, and I'm sure a lot of fish and chip shops do in fact sell French fries as well. But those are not, what you see in the image there are not chips. Chips, oh boy. Chips are chunky. Chips have thick, crispy outsides. Chips are a completely different thing. Hang on, this is a very big image. Hold on. There you go. You see those chips? You see how much bigger and chunkier they are? They're shorter, they're thicker, but they crisp up nicer, and they hold on to the salt better, and they have these really nice sort of outer shells almost that they pick up when they're being deep fried. Chips like these, that's what you get when you go to a fish and chip shop, and they're absolutely brilliant. Sometimes fish and chip shops will give you chips that are a little bit softer, but these are very much part of the experience as well, and I love them both. So fish and chips, extremely iconic. If you go to the UK, you must try fish and chips. I promise you, you will love it. You will. On the tier list, of course, how could it not? Fish and chips goes in the S tier, in the scrumptious tier, not just for how great it tastes, but for how important it is to British cuisine as a whole, and the image of the UK around the world. What does mushy taste like? I'm going to be honest, mushy peas are kind of shit. I don't like them. But you don't have to have mushy peas if you go and get fish and chips. I tend not to, personally. You might like them. I know babies like them, and I'm sure a lot of old people with their dentures do like mushy peas. I don't, personally. If mushy peas were here, I would put them in mingin tier for me personally. But that may just be my experience. Oh, hang on. There we are. Sorry, the music was overlapping there. Gammon. Gammon. Many people just call this ham, but gammon is a cured and very salty cut of hind pork leg, and it's lovely. Now, having gammon with a roast is very, very nice. Gammon is this, it's just very pink and it's very salty. This meat is so salty, which can make it a bit of an acquired taste. Gammon, I love it personally. I really enjoy it. It's very filling, and it goes very, very well, especially if you've managed to keep the salt levels down in a dish you might have gammon with, but it's something to bear in mind. Gammon is delicious, and if you love the taste of pork, you will love gammon, I promise you. But be prepared, it's very, very, very salty. On the tier list, for me, gammon is going in the bangin' tier. Again, it's varied. Sometimes gammon can be a little too much for a dish. Sometimes it can be a little too salty. But overall, gammon is a lovely addition to a roast dinner. And we're going to talk about roasts later. Greggs. And you can love this. Take a look at this. This Greggs logo, I made that myself because I'm not allowed to use the actual Greggs logo. But that's my Greggs logo that I made this morning. Greggs is a fast food chain in the UK that deals mainly in pastries and coffees. The most iconic thing from Greggs are their sausage rolls, as you can see pictured here. Greggs is a really important piece of culture within the UK. Everybody is down to go for a Greggs. Greggs is affordable, Greggs is tasty, and I think a lot of people have memories, especially from when they were students, of going out during the day to go and get Greggs, getting Greggs on your lunch break. Greggs is quick, Greggs is tasty, and it's a lot better for you than other fast food restaurants you might be able to go to. In particular, a real legend about Greggs is their vegan sausage roll. Now, I'm a happy meat eater. I like to eat meat. I'm not a vegan at all, but I have had their vegan sausage roll, and the legend was that it tasted exactly like meat. And I can confirm it does. If you're a vegan and you want to know what a meaty sausage roll tastes like, go to Greggs and have the vegan sausage roll. Now, Greggs, I'm just going to put the sausage rolls in the tier list, but Greggs has to go, again, in bangin' tier. Greggs is a bangin' tier. It's, again, very varied. The sausage rolls are brilliant. I wouldn't say there's anything at Greggs that really jumps out at you and says, like, I'm an incredible piece of cuisine, but the vegan sausage roll comes very close. It comes very, very close. You know what? I'm going to put Greggs above Eton Mess, right next to Bubble and Squeak. I think that's a good place for it. But what's next? Hot cross buns. Hot cross buns, what do I even have to say? So an interesting fact about hot cross buns is that the cross is added to help them crisp up. And what this means is you wind up with some very, very crispy bread rolls that are baked with currants, raisins, or sometimes chocolate chips if you're lucky. Now, hot cross buns are particularly very iconic for churchgoers. If you go to church on Sundays, a lot of the time the hot cross buns will be handed out and you might get to enjoy a hot cross bun with the vicar. Something that I enjoy about church-going culture in the UK is that many non-Christians go to church as well for community, especially a lot of elderly patrons, a lot of retirees who don't have a lot to do during the week. They may go to church in order to enjoy a little bit of community without strictly being religious themselves. And I think this is a really positive thing. And going there and enjoying hot cross buns, especially during Easter, the cross on there very much is spoken of with the same religious symbolism as the cross in Christianity as well. Now, the unfortunate thing about hot cross buns is they are delicious. They're hearty and they're filling. But I don't like raisins. And most of the time, they have raisins or currants in them. So for me personally, I know this is going to hurt some of you. Hot cross buns are going in dicey tier. They are brilliant if you like currants and raisins. But for me, I don't. So they have to go down in dicey tier. For me, okay? That's just for me. You should try them when you come to the UK. If you have the opportunity, you might like them a lot. But for me personally, they're not for me. But if you give me one with chocolate chips, then I'm sold. You know what? I feel wrong about putting this in dicey. I'm moving that up to Kraken right below Digestives. I think that's fair. Does mingin mean bad? Yes. Mingin means disgusting, gross. Like if you were to use mingin in a sentence, let's say you open the fridge and you realize the milk has gone bad. You smell the milk and you say, "Oh, mate, that is minging. Oh, chuck that." Chuck meaning to throw something away. "Oh, chuck that is fucking minging." Hello, Hilo. I don't think I've ever had authentic British food. Well, I'm giving everybody a little lesson in British food so you can follow along, see if you might like anything. Just have a look at scrumptious tier, sausage and mash, Cornish pasty, fish and chips. That's what you want to focus on. All right, next up, Irn-Bru. Now, this isn't food, but this is a really important drink that hails from Scotland. Irn-Bru has been around for well over a century now, and it actually used to be spelt normally. It used to be spelled I-R-O-N-B-R-E-U, Irn-Bru. But the name was changed due to advertising law. Advertising law said that the title of something needs to describe literally what it is, and the fact that it does not contain iron, the metal, and it is not brewed, they thought that that was misleading, and so the name was changed. These days, it's a very, very popular and I think very tasty soft drink. There are caffeinated versions as well. In particular, if you go to Scotland and if you're going around the north of the Highlands and you have the opportunity to go into a local corner shop, I highly recommend trying to find original recipe Irn-Bru. Because Irn-Bru has changed a lot over the years. They have added all kinds of chemicals, glycerol, all of that, and it's still good, but the best Irn-Bru you can get is the original recipe. It is soft, it's not alcoholic. Although I'm sure some people have made, Irn-Bru mixed drinks with spirits and so on. I myself actually tried original recipe Irn-Bru for the first time when I was in the village of Tongue. That's right, Tongue, the same as named after the flappy thing that helps us talk. I went to Tongue with my friends and we tried original recipe Irn-Bru and it was delicious. It's very difficult to describe the flavor. It's one of those things where you need to try it in order to understand it. It's a very unique flavor. Irn-Bru for me, I think it's yummy. It's going at the bottom of banging tier. B tier for brew. Oh. Jaffa cakes. This is a real snack. Jaffa cakes are the business. I need to have more of my sandwich or else I'm going to starve to death. But I'll tell you more about Jaffa cakes in just a short moment. You just got to give me one moment. Just one moment. I'm going to get to it. All right. Jaffa cakes. They are a soft, spongy layer of cake that rests on a sheath of chocolate, and within is an orange flavored jelly. Jaffa cakes, I think, are the peak of anything that you can find as a snack in a supermarket. These, whether you're just chomping on them between meals, whether you have them as a little supper treat, an after dinner snack, any reason at all to have some Jaffa cakes, you should. These are the best. They are the absolute best. Those of you who remember, may have seen when I actually recommended for Cornish to try Jaffa cakes, and I believe my senpai Kuzahan and I did really enjoy them. So I was very happy to see that, and I was glad to have the opportunity to tell them the story of the Jaffa cake legal situation, which I'll tell you about now as well. You see, Jaffa cakes were regarded by many as biscuits, but by many as cakes. And as it turns out, in the UK, there is a luxury tax that affects biscuits, but does not affect cakes. So, the company that had invented Jaffa cakes set about trying to legally change the definition of what a Jaffa cake is. They were arguing that Jaffa cakes are cakes, whereas they were trying to prove that they are not biscuits. And in the end, they won. Jaffa cakes legally are considered cakes and not biscuits, and as such, Jaffa cakes are not subject to that luxury tax. Jaffa cakes, of course, are going in the S tier. Right, I mean, it feels weird to put them above any of these three. You know what? Fish and chips, I think, has to go above Cornish pasty. But for me, it's on par with bangers and mash. I mean, fish and fish and chips is more iconic. But for me personally, bangers and mash is like one of the absolute best. I'm gonna say they're not strictly ordered, but Jaffa cakes are an instant S tier. Jaffa cakes are way up there. They are so good. But we've got another little snack on the menu now. Jammie Dodgers. Who here has had a Jammie Dodger? Jammie Dodgers, 2 layers of soft, flaky shortbread with a little heart in the middle and a thick layer of strawberry jam in the middle. Jammie Dodgers. In my life, it's embarrassing to admit, I have eaten entire packets of Jammie Dodgers all to myself in minutes. These things are a problem for me. They are very addictive. Once you have one, it is very difficult to stop. They're just the right amount of sweetness. They are a hard biscuit, but they're very flaky and they crumble in your mouth very, very quickly. And the jam is so sweet, but it blends perfectly with the biscuits, which are nice and sugary on their own. And you've got that just the right level of heat and crispiness on the outside. These are really good. These are really, really, really good. I would heavily recommend trying Jammie Dodgers if you get the chance. Now, they're not quite scrumptious tier, but Jammie Dodgers are going right up in ace tier with afternoon tea. If you gave me afternoon tea with Jammie Dodgers, I'd be quite confused, because it just would be weird. But it would still be nice. I'd be happily surprised. Let's keep it down at the back of class. Please try to keep emote spam to a minimum. Thank you, guys. Anyway, let's move on. Next up, what do we have? Kippers. Now, this is an interesting one and a bit of an acquired taste. A kipper is a whole herring that is butterflied and smoked, and it's usually enjoyed with breakfast. Now, kippers are a very fiddly dish. Kippers, there is a lot of bones in a kipper. Now, the smoked taste is really lovely to some. For me, I'm not the biggest fan of kippers. I think that the seafood, for me, this kind of seafood flavor is not really for me, but a lot of people in the UK really, really love kippers. I don't have a lot to say about these. I've not really had too many in my time, but if you're a big fan of seafood, this smoked fish, a kipper, I think you'll really, really enjoy it. So because it's a bit of an acquired taste, I'm going to go ahead and put kippers in the Kraken tier with hot cross buns, but I'm sure that many of you who enjoy having fish for breakfast will be a big fan of kippers if you do come to the UK and want to give them a try. Lancashire hotpot. So I'm sure, I'm well aware of my main demographics. A lot of you guys, I'm sure, are big fans of hotpot. Lancashire hotpot is different, but it is no less delicious. Lancashire hotpot is a stew type dish, mainly with beef and with carrots and with all kinds of vegetables, and really there's a lot of leeway with what you put in, but the main characteristic is these thinly sliced potatoes that sit at the top and absorb all the flavor of the meat and the richness of the vegetables as they cook inside the pot. This is a lovely slow cooked dish from Lancashire, and it's an absolute winner. Again, characterized by a lot of what we've talked about. It's the warmth, it's the heartiness, and it's being able to get so much goodness and protein straight into your body in a really, really delicious package. For me, Lancashire hot pot is a real delicious meal, and that's going to go right above Jammie Dodgers in ace tier. Capo, thank you very much for the Aku Super. Happy birthday. Just finished working overtime. It's time to make a wish. Hope I get a better job this year and everything goes smoothly. I'm sure it will. Aini, I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful birthday, and thank you for joining us in class today. Hope you have a lovely, lovely birthday. Thank you so much. And I wish you endless happiness yourself. I'm sure your job is going to go great. All right, next up. Mince pies. Mince pies are a Christmas tradition. Mince pies in the UK are what we leave out for Father Christmas. Father Christmas, of course, is what we call Santa Claus. So in America, you might leave out milk and cookies, but we leave out milk and mince pies. And mince pies are a little pastry filled with spices, filled with jam, filled with chutney and vegetables, and a little bit of everything. These are really good. These are really, really, really good. Now, sherry for Santa Claus, sherry for Father Christmas. I wouldn't want him drunk driving the sleigh, but dandelion and burdock is a good idea too. These are an absolute classic, and they've got a very distinct flavor that's really hard to describe. If you go to the UK around Christmas time, I would very, very highly recommend trying some mince pies, and then maybe you'll see why Father Christmas likes them so much. For me, mince pies, a lot of people don't quite like them, but mince pies for me are really brilliant, and they're a Christmas classic. So they're going all the way into the B tier. I'm going to put them right above Eton Mess, I think. Right next to Greg's. I think mince pies are really, really good. Nando's. And there's my little copyright-free Nando's logo that I made. So we've talked about Nando's before. Nando's is a British restaurant chain that specializes in chicken with different levels of spice, peri-peri chicken. Nando's is an important part of British culture because of the idea of a so-called cheeky Nando's. Now, if you attended our last lesson, you may remember what cheeky means. Cheeky, if for those of you who have forgotten, means to have a little bit, it means to be mischievous. It means to be up to no good. So the concept of a cheeky Nando's is to be out with your friends, having fun, having a laugh, a gas. And then you get the idea, lads. Cheeky Nando's. Cheeky don't you dare. Oh, a cheeky Nando's. Oh, you saucy tart. Oh, a cheeky Nando's. And then, with no plan, no booking, no nothing, you suddenly get a craving and you're off to Nando's. It's cheeky because Nando's is a little bit expensive, but it's well worth it. I would say it's sort of middle of the range in terms of price, but it can get pretty expensive depending on what you order. But I think a lot of people have definitely experienced a Nando's, and it is very, very tasty. My favorite thing about Nando's is the fact that the chicken is of a pretty good quality, and there are many, many different spicy sauces that you can choose for your dish to be cooked with. Me personally, I tend to go for the medium spice, but they have hot and extra hot. So if you're a big spice fan, you might really, really enjoy that too. Nando's is going straight into A tier. Ace tier for Nando's immediately. I mean, we can't really argue with that. You know, the more time that goes on, I think Bubble and Squeak needs to be brought up to A tier as well. I think it's got to go at the top of A tier. It's the way with tier lists a lot, where you will start spacing things out, and then you realize there's no way that such an iconic piece, such an iconic peasant dish goes below Jammie Dodgers. I mean, Jammie Dodgers are brilliant, but Bubble and Squeak is, you know, that's a piece of history. How about some different Mozart now? Let's keep chopping and changing. Let's keep trying some of the new classics. There we are. Also, how audible is the music? Is it quite quiet? This one sounds really quiet. Come on, Mozart. Oh, there we are. There we are. That one was really quiet. It's the, you know, some old settings. Okay, moving on. OXO cubes. Now, this is a weird one. But I do want to bring these up because I think if you're in the UK and you're cooking and you're making any kind of maybe a roast or bangers and mash at home, an OXO cube is the best way to make gravy. OXO cubes, all they are is a little stock cube in the shape of a little X. But these things are nice and cheap, and it's just a stock cube, and you mix those in with some nice warm water, and you're able to create a beautiful gravy boat. I think they taste really, really good. It just gives, it's a cheap way of accessing some really, really brilliant food and making sure that your gravy feels restaurant standard. I don't think that there's much to complain about with OXO cubes. They give you everything you want, and you've got access to beautiful gravy right from the comfort of your own home. So OXO cubes, not a lot to say. It's just gravy. But this brand specifically is very well liked. So for me, I think OXO cubes, they've got to go, you know, put them in banging tier with Irn-Bru. I think that's fair. All right. Moving on. Pie and mash. Pie and mash, while it's not quite as famous as fish and chips, pie and mash may well be the most important piece of British cuisine of all time. Pie and mash was the first piece of fast food in the world, I believe, in the late 19th century, in the 1800s. This was, the pie and mash stops started appearing in East London. You see, in East London, around Canary Wharf, Lewisham, and so on, docklands began to spring up. It was a hub for industry, and a lot of working class people worked and lived around there. East London to this day is, well, London as a whole is becoming very gentrified, but East London is still, you know, a home to a lot of working class people. But at the time, it was a hub of busy trade and a lot of hard, bloody work. So these people who worked so hard needed a very quick, very filling, very hearty meal after a long, hard day's work. And pie and mash was the answer. These pie and mash shops started springing up, and they specialized in making sure people could be served quickly because they were so busy. They had families to get home to. So to describe the dish to you, it's a meat pie or sometimes a fish pie with this liquor. Now the liquor is the gravy that you see there, that green gravy. And I believe it's a fish-based gravy which is made with parsley. At least I believe that's what it is. It's sort of fish stock with parsley and gives it this lovely leafy greeny taste. And then of course you have mashed potato and the real acquired taste, the jellied eels in the front. Jellied eels were very, very inexpensive and very easy to catch and kill and serve at the time, and they were a great source of protein and omega-3, so they were a big, big part of it. Now, if you are in London's East End, those pie and mash shops that appeared at the time are still there to this day. Many of them are. In fact, if you're in East London and you want to go to Greenwich, for example, or Southwark, you'll be able to find some fantastic pie and mash shops. And if you don't want to eat jellied eels, you don't have to. But I would recommend it if you want the full experience. I like them personally. Now, pie and mash has this incredibly rich cultural legacy. It's warm, it's hearty, it's filling, it's delicious. Purely from the perspective of its cultural impact and the way that it sustained so many working people throughout the late 1800s and the early 1900s and onward, pie and mash, I have no choice but to put right up there with fish and chips. Bangers and mash, fish and chips, and pie and mash, I think, so far are the Holy Trinity. But there will be someone joining them shortly, and I look forward for you to see who that is. Sorry, I just need to have some more of my sandwich. I'm suddenly realizing how hungry I am. Teaching, it's it's busy work. I could have had my sandwich earlier, but I was working on my lesson plan. I was making all these slides. Alright, there's going to be another pickle in here, but I can't see it, so I guess it's fine. I'll let my guard down for now. I like that one chill history teacher. I mean, that's a very high compliment. A history teacher in the school that I taught at was a very chill guy, and my mum thought he was hot, which is kind of embarrassing. Y9N, my favorite British dish is fish and chips. Well, very well done. It's a good choice. Do you like whiskey, my lord? I love whiskey. Also, an interesting fact about Irn-Bru that I forgot to mention is that Irn-Bru, one of their slogans is Scotland's second most iconic drink after Scotch. To visit the UK someday, you do. I think it's a lovely, lovely place. There's lots to see and enjoy. So many wonderful sights. Some places in the UK, they would just go straight on a postcard. You know, you see a view and you think, wow, something about this place. To me, it's magic. It's strange because I don't feel patriotic in the traditional sense. I don't feel that I have an allegiance to the government or to the monarchy or anything like that, and I'm certainly not one to rush to the defense of, you know, the decisions that the country makes at times. But when it comes to the environment, when it comes to the people, when it comes to the culture, the UK is the most beautiful place in the world. I've been everywhere. I've been to so many different places, and I cannot imagine living somewhere else. I really can't. And I want to share that with more people. It's funny. I think it's funny that people, you know, have a good sense of humor about the UK. And yes, a lot of British traditions and attitudes and foods have funny names or are amusing to people outside of the UK. But I wouldn't want people to let that affect their... I wouldn't want that to let people to let that affect their view of the country itself, because it's such a wonderful place. And I hope that all of you, if you haven't been already, I hope you get a chance to see some of the beautiful sights. You know, come out, see the Lake District, go to Oxford, go to Bath, and at the end of it all, go to Stoke-on-Trent, go to bloody Alton Towers, and I think you will have seen most of it. All right, let's get back to it. Quality Street. Oh, now we're cooking with gas. Quality Street is a really iconic box of British chocolates, including fudge and toffee and all sorts. These, at any family gathering, at any party, any excuse you can, getting a box of Quality Streets and putting them out in the middle of a coffee table, instant game changer. Everyone is going to be all over these. The best thing about Quality Street is they have such a variety of flavors and types. So everybody has a favorite. Everybody enjoys a different type of Quality Street. For me, I like the coin, which is a round flat piece of toffee, and I like the fudge finger, which is the long and thin one. That is a piece of chocolate. It's a piece of fudge wrapped in chocolate. But yes, Quality Storito is some of the best. I think in a strange way, it's a social food, if that makes any sense. Quality Street really does immediately kind of invite you to chat to people, and everybody gets around and everybody just has a good time and a good smile while they're all stood around enjoying some Quality Street. So I would highly, highly recommend, if you're at the supermarket and you get the chance, buy a box of Quality Street. Just don't enjoy them all to yourself, because there's a lot of chocolate in here, and if you have them all in one sitting, you'll probably get sick. But this is to be shared. Quality Street, as a important part of social functions, I think has to go. Oh, I can't put it above Greg's. Can't put it above Greg's. I'll put it above mince pies. I think Quality Street goes... I think that makes sense for Quality Street. I think that goes there. But next up after Quality Street... Oh! I need to let you all know that this is the best piece of British food, in my opinion. Imagine a world where you could have Christmas dinner almost every single Sunday. Sometimes called Sunday roast, a roast dinner is roast potatoes. It is a roasted something of meat, whether it's roast beef, whether it's chicken, whether it's pork or turkey or anything, sliced and served with rich umami-y gravy and some lovely soft salted vegetables, and the crown jewel, the centerpiece at the middle of it all, waiting for you, tempting you to have it before the end, is the queen, the Yorkshire pudding. This, to me, represents everything that makes British food good. There are so many flavors to enjoy in a roast dinner. The potatoes are crispy and crunchy on the outside, but fluffy and filling on the inside. The vegetables are soft and bursting with flavor, and the meat is filled with nutrients. It's bursting with protein, and it's roast beef. It tastes brilliant. It always will. The Yorkshire pudding is sweet, and it's soft with that nice, gentle, crispy outer layer. And if you're really cheeky, you can get your gravy and you can fill it all the way up. And then when you chop it, the gravy spills out, and you can have that with a big blob of gravy. This is food that's meant to be enjoyed with family. This is food that you can get. You can cook it at home. You can get it down at the pub. This is pure affordable luxury. This is a luxurious dinner. And every time I sit down for a roast, I am beside myself. I genuinely think that roasts are just the best thing that you can ever eat. I go crazy over these things. Now, roasts vary. There are all kinds of different roasts that you can get. But the best thing I would say is that if you're looking for a roast, don't go to Toby Carvery. Okay? Toby Carvery is nice if you're a family because kids eat free. But the fact that kids eat free at Toby Carvery means that if you go there, there will be hundreds of screaming, shouting, crying children. I'm just saying, if you're a tourist and you're visiting the UK, don't go to Toby Carvery. Go to a reputable gastropub. I've got a slide about gastropubs later, but a gastropub is derived from gastronomy. It is a pub that specializes in high quality food. Find a good gastropub and find their on a Sunday and have their roast dinner, and I promise you, you will see God. And this may be controversial to some. For me, the roast dinner goes above bangers and mash as the king of British food. It has everything that you could ever possibly want out of a British dinner. It is hearty, it is warming, it is filled with different flavors. The roast dinner is the champion. And if someday that changes, I would be very surprised. You know, I think for cultural significance, I'm gonna put bangers and mash is so good though. All right, no, I'm leaving Scrumptious Tier as it is. Scotch egg. Scotch egg is lovely. It's not really my favorite thing, but those of you who love a nice boiled or deep fried egg, you're going to love this. A Scotch egg is very simple. It's a egg inside, it's a boiled egg inside sausage meat wrapped in breadcrumbs. And a really good Scotch egg is really bloody nice. They're a great little piece of finger food, especially if you're enjoying a larger meal. I tend not to really go for boiled eggs that much, but if you get the egg done right, the sausage meat has this lovely salty quality to it that adds to the egg in a brilliant way, and the breadcrumbs make it really nice and crispy. This is I think, a genius culinary invention, and I'd highly recommend you give it a go. Pei-chan, thank you for the 10 gifted. Thank you so much. All right, Scotch eggs for me are going into. I'm going to put Scotch eggs in banging tier, right above. I'll put them right next to Eton mess. I think that makes sense. Now, spotted dick. Spotted dick. Spotted dick. Spotted dick is a cakey steamed dessert. Spotted dick is spongy, it is cakey, and usually served with custard, and the spotted terminology in the name stems from the either currants or chocolate chips that it tends to come with baked into itself. It's usually made with suet, which is a very important meat byproduct in a lot of British food. Pie and mash is also heavily made with suet. Suet is involved in a lot of British poor food because it was very easy to come by. It was very, very cheap at the time. Spotted dick is a tasty little dish, and this is particularly infamous overseas for its name. Spotted dick, the term dick, I was researching this morning, but I actually can't quite remember what the dick meant and where it comes from. But yes, really, spotted dick is it's a sort of a steamed fruitcake, really, and served with warm custard. It's very soft and it all falls apart in your mouth. And if you like a bit of dried fruit, you'll really, really love this. So, from what I'm seeing, and this is sort of jogging my memory now, dick was a term for plain pudding. So if you had this with treacle sauce, you would have treacle dick. And I believe this type of pudding, this sort of steamed dessert, sort of stems from dough dick. So there was a name for it, another name, rather than spotted dog. So rather than spotted dick, it was called spotted dog, and dog being a variant term for dough. So some people back in the day used to call this spotted dog, but it became spotted dick. So yes, spotted dick, treacle dick, all kinds of dick is lovely to eat in the UK. Spotted dick is really tasty. I like it a lot. I'm going to put spotted dick in. A lot is going in the banging tier. A lot is going in banging tier. But it belongs. It belongs in banging tier. You know what? Spotted dick with custard. It's really nice. I'm putting that right below Irn-Bru. I gotta move. I gotta shrink down. Hang on. Wait a minute. I gotta go down here. There we are. All right. But after spotted dick, toad in the hole. Oh. This is the titular funny name for a dish, and this time, you guys, toad in the hole is peak. You guys, you ESL people, you know what peak means? In the UK, we say banging. We say scrumptious. Toad in the hole, you know, is going in scrumptious tier because it is genius. Toad in the hole includes no toad. There is no toad. There is no frog. No nothing. Toad in the hole is one giant Yorkshire pudding filled and baked with sausages. I get chills thinking about Toad in the Hole. And it's been a long time since I've had Toad in the Hole. Think about how much reverie I spoke about Yorkshire pudding with. Toad in the Hole is a whole big Yorkshire pudding with all of these lovely sausages, and you can fill this thing up. You can fill that Yorkshire pudding up with all kinds of spices and herbs. You can get a ton of gravy in there. The Toad in the Hole is a blank canvas that even if you left it blank would still be delicious. Toad in the Hole is so peak. It is really, really brilliant. It is right at the top there. For me, Toad in the Hole goes right next to Bangers and Mash. Oh, go on, where is it? Do I not have the Toad in the Hole image? Oh my god, how do I not have the most iconic? Oh, dearie me, what have I done? Where's the Toad in the Hole one? Toad in the Hole, where have you gone? Toad in the Hole, there you go. Toad in the Hole is going right next to Bangers and Mash. Now, I have not had Toad in the Hole in a long time, and I have Bangers and Mash quite a lot. So for me, Toad in the Hole is just barely eked out by Bangers and Mash. But God, it feels weird for fish and chips. We go, so you know what? I feel like fish and chips we just got to put right here for the cultural significance, you know? For the cultural significance and how recognizable fish and chips are, I think fish and chips needs to go right here. But nothing knocks out the roasty for me. Nothing knocks out the roast. Vimto! You see my fake Vimto logo. Vimto! Vimto. Vimto, everybody from the UK knows how good Vimto is. Vimto is a drink cordial. So it's a squash. Vimto is made with blackberries, strawberries, all kinds of fruits and spices, and it is this thick drink cordial that you would mix with a bit of water. So you get a lot of mileage out of one bottle of Vimto. Listen, Vimto just tastes different. Nothing tastes like Vimto. I don't know how they did it. They must have some crazy secret recipe. They must have something going on, Vimto. I don't know what Vimto did. I don't know where the name Vimto even comes from, but Vimto is delicious. When I was teaching, every kid was bringing Vimto into school. It was either that or Rubicon. They were all smuggling loads and loads of Vimto in their rucksacks into school. And I wasn't going to tell because, you know, what am I like? It's Vimto. It's not going to kill anybody. But Vimto, it's so difficult to describe the flavor. You have to try it. It's unlike anything you've ever drank before, and yet it's such a familiar, comfortable flavor. Vimto is just catapulting straight into the ace tier, right next to afternoon tea, I think. I think that makes a lot of sense for Vimto. You got to pretend. Okay, this image doesn't have the logo. You got to pretend. You got to pretend that the Vimto logo is on there. Okay. We've only got a few left. In fact, we might only have one left. Welsh rarebit. Ooh, this is nice. So this is a tricky word. Rarebit. A lot of people hear this and they call it Welsh rabbit. But it is not a rabbit and no rabbit is involved. It is a rarebit. And a Welsh rarebit, it looks like cheese on toast, but it's actually cheese sauce on toast. And that cheese sauce tends to be made with Worcester sauce and with ale and with all kinds of good stuff. I'm telling you right now, Welsh rarebit is Really, really, really good. And in fact, those of you who like to watch films with me in our member watch-alongs, we watched Phantom Thread when he goes to dinner, and when he orders from Alma, who becomes his future wife, he asks her for a Welsh rabbit, and she says he's a very hungry boy. This is a great little thing for lunch. It's a great little thing for breakfast, or for brunch. We don't really have brunch here. Nobody really calls it brunch, but I guess if you're having a meal between breakfast and lunch, I guess you could call it brunch. Welsh rabbit is really, really, really nice. Cheese sauce just goes so well on toast. If it's nice and thick, it's stunning. It's really, really, really good. Yep. A lot of people thought he says Welsh rabbit, but it is a Welsh rarebit, which is cheese sauce on toast. And there we go. That is our full list, at least for today, of afternoon tea. Now, I did see someone in chat point out that I didn't talk about a full English breakfast, so I think I will do that as well. I don't know how I managed to miss that. You know why? I think it's because full English starts with F, and for F, every single list in the world does fish and chips first. But a full English is incredibly iconic as well. So we will briefly talk about full English. And I'm quite mortified that I managed to miss that, because a full English, oh my God, I mean, that's an incredibly important piece of British cuisine. Nobody does it. Nobody does it quite like us. Let me just put that. I'll put it on screen for you so you can see now. Where is it? Come on. Gosh, I love a full English. I love a full English breakfast so much. Yes, thank you so much. There we are. Full English breakfast. Return home from... Oh, you're going to Brighton in July? Ah, that's so exciting. Brighton's a lovely place. Brighton is a lovely place. Okay, check this out. Full English breakfast. Oh, ho, ho, ho. Full English comes with all kinds of different bits and bobs. Its main staples are sausages, eggs, toast, bacon, beans, tomatoes and mushrooms. But you can have all kinds of stuff. Sometimes there's black pudding. Sometimes you'll have baked beans in a pot, which I think is wrong, but it's happened anyway. I don't think there's a better way to start the day. I really don't. Full English as a way of getting all that protein into you, and all of this stuff mixed together. You can, so me, I prefer, oh, and hash browns as well, of course. Hash browns. I usually have my eggs scrambled. So what I'll do is I'll have scrambled eggs, and I'll start, I'll cut a bit off the sausage, get some egg on the fork, and then grab some beans, a little bit of bacon. The more you can fit onto your fork, the better. This is one of my favorite things about British food, is the fact that it's so good for just fucking shoveling in your mouth. It's so good for eating ravenously, like you're hungrier than anything. You just hum, 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 hum. Gotta have it all. Scran. That's a good word, actually. We'll talk about scran in a minute, because I want an opportunity to teach you all today a little bit of extra British slang as well. But yes, we've got the tier list here. We've got the tier list here as well. I've already put it in. The full English, of course, is not in Minging tier. That was an accident. Full English, I think, just barely beaten by sausage and mash. Just barely. And I think that's because, honestly, I'm just not the biggest fan of the tomatoes. I think that the big roast tomatoes, they tend to be, a lot of the time when you go to full English, they tend to be really difficult to eat, and they sort of, they get squished and they break apart a lot. And I guess I'm a little bit of a picky eater when it comes to that. But overall, the full English is huge. And as a way to start the day, it's unbeatable. I think around the world, no breakfast really compares to a full English for me. But that's our tier list done. But I do have some more to show you. Today. What I've got, in addition to our slideshow about food is I have a list of different locations that you can eat at, as well as a guide to British supermarkets. So I think I need to set my hotkeys so I can navigate through that one really quick, but it shouldn't take me long. Shouldn't take me long at all. Where are you? There we are. British eateries. Okay. So, if you're on your way to the UK and you want to try some British food, where do you go? Well, if you want fish and chips, you go to what we call the chippy. Chippy is just a shortening of fish and chip shop. A chip, some people call it a chip shop, fish and chip shop, but everybody knows what the chippy is. Anyone remembers from a few years ago the meme, the Binley Mega Chippy? Everybody loves the Binley Mega Chippy. You call it the chippy because it's a local place. Everybody knows it. Everybody's been at least once or twice in your local area. If you find a local chippy, chippies, I think, tend to be quite successful at staying mostly independent. At least that's my view of it. At least maybe that's my hope. But when you go, you just got to head on in and ask for fish and chips, and they'll give it to you. There's a lot you can have there. You can get all kinds of different drinks. They sometimes serve pucker pies and all this kind of stuff. Britoid Weirb. Britoid. That's new. I haven't heard that before. But the chippy is a really, really important part of any local community. A lot of people wind up meeting up at the chippy late in the day. You'll run into people that you know in your local community. And as well, pucker pie spelt P-U-K-K-A, pie. And what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. No, I've forgotten again. All I'm saying is, the chippy's great. You're going to get a lot of good food there. Oh, that was it. If you're in Scotland, you can go to a chippy and they may serve you a deep-fried Mars bar. Deep-fried Mars bar is, if you've ever had a Mars bar, the chocolate, a Mars bar, you can go to a chippy in Scotland and they will give you a deep-fried Mars bar, which is a local delicacy. I like them, personally. It's definitely a bit of a weird idea, but I think they're pretty good. So you guys, if you're in Scotland, especially further north, maybe Thurso, definitely got to give them a try. I think I had a deep fried Mars bar when I was in Thurso, but Thurso is very, very far north. It's not easy to get up to Thurso. Corner shop. This is what we call a combini. We don't really say convenience store. If we've got a shop, a small shop, we might call it either a corner shop or we'll call it an off license or offie. This is, if you're familiar with combini, same exact deal. This is a small but very convenient shop, and there's going to be one on a lot of different street corners. And there's all sorts of lovely little bits and bobs to enjoy here. Now, combini tends to have a lot of hot food that you can have heated up, and the corner shops don't really work in the same way. They tend not to have the same equipment. So I would recommend, if you go into a corner shop, just find something off the shelf and buy it, and then go and eat it outside or at home. There's no real, I'm sure some of them do, but a lot of corner shops, if they're not owned by a chain, like this one here is a Spa, which is a popular sort of chain of off-license shop. A lot of corner shops are independently owned. They tend to be owned by couples. There are a few that I've been to that are owned by older married couples, and they're very sweet, and it's nice to go and support these local businesses and that stuff. But there's nothing wrong with going to a Spa or any other kind of chain off license if you really do need some quick food. There's not much else to say about corner shops. They're just a great place to go if you need some quick food, need some quick alcohol, or anything like that. Now, I was talking about a gastropub earlier. A gastropub is if you want to go and experience the best pub grub, pub food that the world has, that the UK anyway, has to offer. A gastropub is what you're looking for. Gastro comes from the word gastronomy, and a gastropub is a pub that specializes and focuses on producing the best food possible. There are a lot of pubs in the UK that don't really serve food. Many pubs that mainly serve beers, ciders, drinks, and a few pub snacks like nuts, crisps, and so on. And you wouldn't really go there for a full cooked meal. So if you're looking for some really good food, see if you can look online and find a gastropub. This is where you want to go, and this is where you get the very best of British pub grub. So if you need to make sure, gastropub is what you're looking for when it comes to finding the best food. Pasty shop. Oh yes. So I talked earlier about Cornish pasties. This kind of a hole in the wall, it's not really a hole in the wall, but it also kind of is. This sort of shop found on the high streets. A lot of the time you might have the luxury of finding one that's independently owned, but this is the best place to get a Cornish pasty. But also they have baguettes, sandwiches, wrap salads. They tend to have a lot of food available, a very long menu. But if you're going to one of these, make this an opportunity to try a Cornish pasty or a bespoke sausage roll, you know, a handmade sausage roll. All of that is really nice here. Jacket potatoes, really good. All kinds of nice stuff that you can try from a lovely Cornish pasty stop, especially, like I said, if you're in Cornwall. Now, I believe next up I have my little thing about supermarkets. Yes. So we're all familiar with supermarkets. We've got a little bit of slang to learn. All of these supermarkets are worth visiting, but for different reasons. There are lots of different supermarket chains that you can become familiar with in the UK. And I'm sure any of you who have lived here have had one local supermarket that you've been used to going to. And they're all good for different reasons. So, let me teach you about the terms on the right. At the top, spenny. Spenny is a shortening of expensive. Expensive. Spenny. If something is a bit spenny, it's a little bit expensive. And at the very top of the chain here is Waitrose. Waitrose is extremely middle class. It is very expensive compared to the options lower down on the list, but I will say they have a lot more obscure stuff available. They have a lot more kind of items at Waitrose tend to be of a higher quality. They have, but basically, if you've got the money for it and you're looking for something very specific, a big Waitrose is probably going to have what you need. Is it like Whole Foods? I don't know. I don't know what the fuck Whole Foods is. I'm going to be honest. Marks and Spencer is almost there with Waitrose. Marks and Spencer is also quite expensive, but not quite as expensive as Waitrose. Marks and Spencer tends to have a lot on offer. What you might find is an M&S, often abbreviated to M&S, Marks and Spencer. There will be M&S Food, which is strictly only a supermarket that sells food, but M&S also sell clothes. They also sell all sorts. The big superstore Marks and Spencers have a lot on offer, and they have some nice premixed cocktails that I really like. They have some really nice clothes there as well. M&S is generally a good bet, but it is expensive. And for me, I don't feel that the quality is quite as good as Waitrose. But of course, it is a little bit cheaper to match. Now the co-op. The co-op is great. It is closer to the more expensive side, but that's because the co-op is a very ethically run business. It's a cooperative, which to my admittedly very basic understanding is essentially all about workers' rights, unions, and so on and so forth. I believe a lot of the time the workers at the co-op own the chain itself. The main thing about the co-op is that even though it is a part of a globally recognized or a nationally recognized brand, the manager or the store owner of an individual co-op is well aware as, what am I trying to say? They own the shop. And so they do tend to be a bit more expensive because that sort of ethical consideration can sometimes lead to higher expenses. So I think supporting the co-op is a good thing to do generally. And they do tend to have nice products and good stuff to enjoy. Now going down middle of the road are Sainsbury's and Morrison's. These two are some really nice options to choose from. This is around when you would start to find similar stuff in all of them. Sainsbury's and Morrison's in particular, they have their own brand of product, but a lot of the time when they're selling third-party products, they tend to be of a very similar quality to each other. So if you need to go and get some food or some drinks or anything to cook at home, or if you're looking for something specific, Sainsbury's and Morrison's are going to give you, they're for families, that's right. They're going to give you around about the same experience, whichever one you go to. You can't really go wrong with either of them. At least that's what I think. Now, I've put Tesco and Asda next to each other because I did Google it because I wasn't sure. Tesco and Asda have kind of been, there was a time when Tesco and Asda were bickering a lot about which one of them was cheaper. I remember around, I think the mid to late 2000s or the early 2010s, I think it was the late 2000s, Asda put out a line of adverts where they basically just made fun of Tesco. Asda, their whole marketing thing was them saying, we're cheaper than Tesco. Tesco is more expensive and not as good. We're better than Tesco specifically. Do not go to Tesco, come to Asda. So whatever's going on between those two divas, I'm going to put Tesco and Asda at the same place. I've seen some people online saying that Tesco is cheaper. I've seen some people saying that Asda is cheaper. For those of you from America, Asda is Walmart. I believe they are owned by the same company. They just have a different name. In the same way that in America you have TJ Maxx and in the UK we have TK Maxx. It's the exact same thing but with a different name. But yeah, Asda is Walmart. And I wonder, does Tesco have an American equivalent? So there's some debate. Tesco? No, I don't think Tesco. No, Target is Wilko. Wilko, I forgot about Wilko. I used to live, when I was at uni, I used to live down the road from a Wilko, and Wilko had a lot of, it's a department store, you know, well, not a department store. It's, there's a lot of, it just has a lot of stuff, you know, it's a stuff supermarket. But Wilko, yeah. Rip Wilko. Wait, what the fuck happened? Have I been living under a rock? What happened to Wilko? Did Wilko shut down? No, it's not. There's plenty of Wilkos open. What are you talking about? Was everybody saying Rip Wilko? Did Wilko shut down? First I've heard of it. Yeah, the Wilko website is still up. The physical stores are gone. Oh man, I actually didn't know that. I hadn't seen. I don't follow live TV. I don't really listen to radio. Yeah, I missed the memo on that because I've not been around a Wilko. That's crazy. Yeah, Wilko. It was this. Well, yeah, it was like our version of Target. I remember going there to get my cookware and some gardening stuff a while ago. And when my roommates and I, back when I had roommates, we were decorating for Halloween. We got most of it from the Wilco down the road. Oh, that's very sad. At least you can still order online. That's upsetting. That's upsetting. US equivalent. I just need to check this of Tesco. Kroger, it says. Kroger. Okay, sure. Kroger. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But then, of course, let's move on, because we do have the two kings of affordability, Aldi and Lidl. I believe these are Swedish brands or Scandinavian, at the very least. This is a piece of British slang we have: cheap as chips. What we'll say is, if something is inexpensive, yeah, as cheap as chips, mate, or as cheap as chips. Aldi and Lidl are the cheapest options you can go for. It's German, right? Lidl is different, but Aldi is German, right? Thank you for letting me know. Aldi and Lidl are the most affordable options. From what I'm aware of, Aldi is just barely above Lidl in terms of price, but they're both very, very cheap, and they're both brilliant. See, the main place that I would shop during university, and really, if ever I had access to a Lidl, I was always going to Lidl. I have a big soft spot for Lidl, because for me anyway, I don't think that even though a Lidl will tend to be a little bit less bright and pristine than a Waitrose or something else. Oh, they're both German. Right, I'm an idiot. Lidl to me is the perfect place to just march on in and try and find something to make for dinner. I love going to Lidl. It feels very easy because it is so inexpensive, but the quality of the products there really isn't bad by any stretch. So from having shown you this, I've helped you understand which supermarkets are more expensive and which are cheaper, but all of them have value. I don't want to be seen to be dogging on any brands here. There's a reason to go to any of these, and really the best supermarket to go to is the one that's closest to you. But of course, if you're trying to save money, you shouldn't go to Waitrose. But if you want something that's higher quality that you want to make sure you can get, then you should make sure you go to Waitrose or to Marks and Spencer. But Waitrose tends to be the one for that. And that is about all I got down for British eateries. I was doing all of this morning, and that's about everything I managed to put down. But that for today, there's one more piece of slang that I would like to teach you before we end off for the day. And we'll have a little bit of Zatsu at the end. If you guys have any questions, we can do a little quiz as well. This is what we've been learning about today. Scran. Scran is a slang term from the north of England, and it means food as a noun. If you're having some scran, then you're eating some food. But also it can be a verb. If you're scranning, then you're eating. Scran, I think around the world, this is my favorite word when it comes to describing food. You're having a scran. Get your scran from there. If you're grabbing a snack and they say, "Oh yeah, get your scran, come on over." I really like this word. I think it's a very sweet, cute sounding word. I've got a little funny story for you. A long time ago, I was mentioning my roommates, right? My roommates and I, we like to put on events for each other. We tended to have fun, and one of my roommates did a really, really cool Halloween event, and did the thing where we were doing trick-or-treating around our own shared house, and he dressed up in like a scary costume, and then we had to run around finding sweets and he decorated every room and made it scary, and the whole thing is he would be stalking the house, and if he caught you, then you had to give your sweets back to him, and then he'd scatter them around, and it was really, really good fun. It was great. It's great to just kind of remember, your inner child a little bit like that, and say, yeah, why not? Let's have fun with that. And I got inspired by that, and I wanted to do something similar based on my area of expertise. So I set up around Easter time. I set up a little hunt for my roommates. Sorry, Kuro Yuri, thank you for the super. I'd love to know a place for delicious afternoon tea. A specific recommendation? Well, I mean, across the country, you will find some no matter where you go. There are all kinds of places in London. I think if you're in London, look for hotels. If you can afford to spend a bit of money, I believe the Ritz is incredibly expensive, but they have, some good afternoon tea, at least from what I know. But afternoon tea is all over the place. All you have to do is look around and find somewhere that has good reviews and a good reputation, and I'm sure you'll do very, very well. Oh, if you're in the West Country, there is a lot of afternoon tea available in little tea houses. Bradford-on-Avon, in particular, is a really lovely little town, very, very picturesque, and I've had nice afternoon tea there before as well. But, like I was saying, I decided to do a hunt around Easter, and obviously, around Easter time, we have egg hunts and all of that. And I decided, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use my knowledge of my origin. I'm going to make it themed around Japanese folklore and yokai. And so what I did was I became, the name is escaping me now. The name of this yokai is escaping me, but I wore a costume. That's it. Gyokto. I wore a big rabbit costume with a scary mask. Started with a matcha ceremony, and then pretended to get possessed by the spirit of this yokai. And then I was saying, "Oh, you have to figure out all of these riddles and things." And then I'd put a load of recreations of yokai all around the house we were in. I got creative with arts and crafts, and one of them was rokurokubi, which was like a load of socks put together to make the very, very long neck, and so on and so forth. But the crown jewel was the gaki that I made. So the gaki, what I did was I put together. We had an old skeleton, a plastic skeleton left over from Halloween. So what I did to make the gaki was I got the skull and then the lower arm and leg bones with the hands and feet. And then I got a balloon, or a sort of a silvery, like one of those wide balloons. And I inflated it a little bit. I hid a chocolate egg inside as though he'd eaten it, and then I taped the skull and these tiny little bony arms and legs, and then I lodged his skull in the fridge and scattered a load of food all over the floor. Because of course gaki, they're eternally hungry, right? They're always looking for something to eat, and if they try to eat food that hasn't been blessed and given to them, by kind people at the shrines, then it burns them and all of that. So I thought about, if he's hungry, what's he going to do? So I put him as though his head was in the fridge and he was looking for food, and then scattered a load of food all over the floor as though he'd been very messily eating. And I'll never forget watching as my roommates walked into the kitchen and they saw the little gaki on the floor, this little bony creature that I'd made, and they said, "Who's been scranning in here? Who's been scranning? Who's this?" And I thought, I don't know, something about the tone of voice and the way they use the word scranning in that moment, because these people, they didn't really say scran that often, but it was divine inspiration in that moment. And it took them a while to figure out that in order to, the riddle essentially was that he had eaten the chocolate egg and it was torturing him because it hadn't been blessed. So they needed to go into the balloon and pull the chocolate egg out, and that was how they get the egg. But it took them a long time to sort out that riddle. But it was good. It was good fun in the end. And I had a nice time. Doing it, teaching them a little bit about some folklore. But yes, as far as our lesson goes, I believe that we are now dismissed. We can have a little bit of Zatsu now. We can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. But thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you had the opportunity to learn a little bit about lovely Scran, about lovely British food. I'll put the tier list on screen just so that we can see what's going on here. You know, if I was to go more personal, my personal opinion, I'd probably put Kippers in Dicey, and yeah, that's probably about the only change that I would make. I mean, I wanted to be nice to Kippers because a lot of people really do like them. I know a lot of people who love Kippers, but it's not really for me. Is there anything I would put in Mingin? I'm sure a lot of you guys would put pie and mash in Mingin because of the jellied eels, but I could never. I could never put them anything below scrumptious because the pie and mash itself is so delicious and it's so culturally important. I hope that those of you who are ESL, those of you from other parts of the world who are learning English, I hope that my word choice today, that you were able to follow it. I hope that you are having an easy time following along and learning with me. And I hope that I might have excited you enough to make you really want to give the UK a try as a potential tourist destination. It's a wonderful, wonderful place, and there are all kinds of lovely things to see. What is my Mingin food list? Well, for me, food that I really hate is, you know, really, really strong smelling fish, pickles, and yeah, there's nothing that I really hate apart from pickles. But pickles aren't especially British. I mean, a lot of British people like pickled onion. Now, pickled onions, yes. All right, you know what? You know what I'll do? To have one Mingin dish, I'll put pickled onions down there because I can't stand them. I can't stand pickled onions. But yeah, pickled onions are a big part of British cuisine. I just don't eat them, so I didn't really think about it. JP English, thank you for the super. Officially hungry. Well, that's good. I'm glad it could have made you a little hungry. Glad I could have made you want something a little bit more. Oh my god, I'm looking at Adobe Stock, which to be fair has been very brilliant for getting images of all of these things. But there is like nothing for pickled onions. There's absolutely nothing on here. Like they don't have a single image of pickled onions at all. They've just got, oh, there's one. There's one. I've never heard of pickled onions. See, this is a strange thing, I think, is because since the you know, the advent of the internet, we've had so much more information available internationally. A lot of the time when I hear people, when I work so often and I'm friends with people from all around the world, sometimes things get a little muddled for me, and I can sometimes assume that certain things are worldwide when in reality they are uniquely British, because I have friends from both the UK and from abroad, and when sometimes I just get the things they say mixed up. So I always thought the pickled onions would be something that people all around the world would enjoy, but it originates from 18th century England as a piece of pub grub. I've seen them in there. I've seen a lot of people eat them. A lot of people I know like pickled onions, but I always thought it would be something that people around the world would enjoy too. How vinegary do I take my chips? For me, I don't tend to have a lot of vinegar on my chips. If I'm at the chippy, I kind of just like a bit of ketchup. I just like them with ketchup. As long as they're nice and salty, I love just dipping chips in ketchup. That's always been the best for me personally. Pickled onion. Pickled onion on the tier list for me. Mingin. Mingin. Don't like it. Don't like it one bit. Don't like it. Import that to Chicago. Yeah, I kind of feel like people from Chicago would probably like pickled onions. The one bit of Chicago that I really know about. I've been to Chicago, but I didn't really stay there for very long. The one bit of Chicago I know about is the Bears, when Coach Ditka talks about Polish sausage, and I don't really know how to do a Chicago accent. Yeah, let me get a Polish sausage. Yeah, what kind of... Hey, come on, man. What kind of... Da Bears. Okay, listen. I'm going to ask you a question. Who would win in a fight? A hurricane or Coach Ditka? Oh, Coach Ditka. Coach Ditka would win. All right, I got it. Okay, but the name of the hurricane is Hurricane Ditka. I'm gonna be real with you. I remember that so vividly. I don't know who Coach Ditka is. I believe he's like a. Is it football or baseball? What are the Bears? Chicago Bears. Are they football? Yeah, they're football. And I guess Coach Ditka was a coach for the Chicago Bears. I love the idea of this group of people having that much faith in the coach of their. I love the idea of people having that much faith in the coach of their football team. In the UK, man, if your football team is failing, people are very cross. People are very cross with the football coaches, and they tend to just be very ensconced. You know what? I don't really follow. The Bulls is basketball. Oh. Bears of football, Bull. Oh yeah, of course the Bulls is basketball. Jesus, I know that. I was on the Chicago Bulls. I don't know, I was so disoriented there. I said, oh, I just saw Bulls, and I didn't put two and two together for a second. I was like, yeah, of course I know about the Chicago Bulls. I love the Bulls. Angelia Akuma, thank you for the Aku Super. Stream is making me so hungry. Just finished my bacon and egg burger. Ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo. Never been to the UK, but all the food you recommend looks amazing. Hope I can try it all someday. Oh, thank you so much. Let me translate this. I wanna get to grips with that. Yongyuan Aini, thank you so much for the super. I love you too, forever and ever. The plushie merch, yeah. You know that's the nice thing, is that the Chicago Bulls merch, not all of it. I mean, all of it's comfy and nice. But a lot of the Chicago Bulls, or the NBA merch, they gave me a Chicago Bulls cap, and that's one of the only pieces of merch that staff have given me that I'm actually safely able to wear outdoors, because it doesn't have anything Vox Akuma on it. It's just a Chicago Bulls hat. That blends in pretty well. Opinions on chicken tikka masala. Oh, stunning. Oh god, tikka masala is so good. Yes. See, thanks to Claude, I usually because I believe chicken tikka masala is it's very similar to butter chicken, isn't it? Are they the same? It's a little spicy. Yeah, that makes sense. Like butter chicken is like creamier, and that's sort of more native to India, whereas chicken tikka masala actually originated in the UK. See, that's one of the most fascinating things. Butter chicken with a rah. See, that's the thing that I find so fascinating, and it's quite funny. I say this. I find myself saying this every time I stream on Bilibili, which we're doing tomorrow, by the way. Every time I stream on Bilibili, I always wind up bringing up the fact that British people love Chinese takeaway, and British people also love Indian takeaway as well. The fact that chicken tikka masala originated in the UK, and the fact that the name sounds more Indian than butter chicken, which is the more, which does come from India itself, it just goes to show that, British people, we love Indian takeaway. We love Chinese takeaway. The UK has a very significant Indian population, but we also have a very significant Chinese population as well. is believed to have originated in the United Kingdom. I mean, the funny thing is, like, if I wasn't on stream, and if I was just casually making a British food tier list with my friends, I think I probably would have included Indian takeaway and Chinese takeaway as well, because they are so, like, such important parts of, the, I guess, monthly diet of a British person. I think everybody in this country at some point, I think most people regularly go and get Indian takeaway. They'll get, some takeaway curry. They'll get some takeaway Chinese sweet and sour chicken. My go-to for Chinese takeaway is always chicken fried rice. I always get chicken fried rice from the local Chinese takeaway. That's always my favorite. But I love chow mein as well, and crispy noodles. The ones that I think they call it, wherever the place that I go to is, they call it Singapore style. But a lot of the time there's a lot of Asian fusion inspired stuff. There's stuff from China. There's also like little bits of Viet food there. There's all kinds of stuff they include. And the nice thing about Chinese takeaway is that a lot of the stuff is bought and sold wholesale, so you kind of get a similar experience no matter where you go. Now Japanese food in the UK. The big piece of Japanese food in the UK. Well, there's people in the UK love sushi, and it's funny because there's a lot of really bad sushi in the UK as well. There's a lot of really bad sushi. Particularly a lot of supermarkets will sell like these plastic trays with sushi, and you'll get, it's all the stuff like the fucking California dragon roll type thing, but sushi, definitely a lot of supermarkets sell sushi. If you want my advice, the best sushi that I have had from a restaurant or a chain in the UK, surprisingly, there's a restaurant called Kokoro, which is a chain in the UK that there's quite a few of, and I've had Kokoro a few times. Kokoro only serves salmon sushi. They only have sake. But as far as UK takeaway sushi goes, it's pretty good. I like it a lot. Kokoro is a lot of Asian fusion. I think most of it, surprisingly, is Korean food. So they have, it might be mostly Japanese. They have, their main thing is katsukare. They have chicken cutlet katsukare or pork katsukare as well. They have obviously a lot of different sushi. They have like maki, and they have salmon nigiri as well. It's sad because they used to do this box of like 10 salmon nigiri, and I really, really liked that, but they took it away and started mixing it with like, you can only get the sushi if you get a box with maki in there as well. And I don't really go for that. I prefer to just have nigiri myself, but I'll still go for it sometimes if I'm really hungry and I fancy sushi. Yeah, that's a good example of some Japanese food in the UK. There's yo sushi, which I'm seeing in the chat, a little bit of a mixed bag. I've not been to yo sushi myself, but that's, I believe, the closest we get to conveyor belt sushi. The closest thing that the UK has to that is yo sushi, but it doesn't really have the same functionality as something like a Sushiro or any other sort of big chain that you might find in Japan. Now, when it comes to other bits of Japanese food in the UK, there's another chain restaurant which is a little expensive but is very popular, called Wagamama. Wagamama is all over the place, and the funniest thing is, before I went back to Japan for the first time in a very, very long time, centuries even, a lot of people from Niji came and visited the UK. And one thing that happened was when Prof was in the UK a long while ago, we went to a ramen restaurant. In London, and we were like, "Oh yeah, this is the best. This is gonna be so good. He's gonna love this." And it's like, bro, this isn't This is not authentic ramen at all. And I will stand by that ramen restaurant was good. The food there is nice. But Wagamama, I think it's nice, okay? I think it's decent. The food there is consistent and it is tasty, but it's not authentic Japanese food at all. The thing about a British person's palate is that I think it's a lot more limited. Japanese food, as a British person who has spent a lot of time in Japan in the last few years for work, a lot of food in Japan doesn't really make sense to a British palate specifically. Obviously, I'm sure it's all delicious and it exists for its own reason, but when I put myself into the mind of a native British person who might not have really been outside of the UK much before, a lot of food in Japan is very outlandish and quite crazy, especially stuff like unagi. You know, a lot of people from the UK really put off by the idea of unagi. A lot of raw food. People from the UK will be very apprehensive about raw food. Raw egg in particular. You know, when I go to Sukiya, I think Sukiya is one of my favorite places to start the day because I love to have a really heavy breakfast. If I'm working in Japan, I usually get up really, really early, around like 5 or 6 a.m. And then I go straight to Sukiya and I get myself the green onion bowl, the negi gyudon with the raw egg. I love it, but raw egg, not safe to eat in the UK at all. Japan has really, really strict safety standards when it comes to raw egg. And if you eat raw egg, especially at a restaurant in Japan, it's usually pretty safe. But that's not the case in the UK. Raw egg in the UK has a decent chance of giving you salmonella. So, you know, don't go and try and make any gyudon by yourself when you're in the UK because it's probably not going to end well if you put raw egg on it. But I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that anyway, if you are coming from Asia or somewhere with that sort of high standard for eggs. No, raw eggs. Some people from the UK do have raw eggs if they're bulking, you know, if they're working out. But yeah, it's not safe to do so. You do have a chance of getting salmonella and all sorts from raw eggs. And they're just overall, eggs in the UK don't have the same sort of quality, I don't think. I'm going to get back on the main screen. I've been in the corner. I want you to, see all of me for a little bit. Have you been enjoying the Mozart? It's nice, isn't it? It's so real good. There we are. Oh, my head cut off. Very lively, thank you for the super. Many dishes look so yummy. Can't wait to try them for myself in the UK one day. Montreal has Brit Rest, but I'm sure it's not the same. Oh, do you mean like British restaurant? Yeah. Obviously, this is the case. It's always different. But I do love seeing other countries and their interpretations of British food. I'm remiss for why I haven't been and checked and tried it for myself. I love the amount of British pubs there are in Japan. You know, just walking around wherever you're staying in Japan, you're bound to come across. I understand people in Japan love Guinness. There's a lot of pubs that serve Guinness in Japan, which is obviously very exciting. I love a Guinness. Guinness in particular, very popular in Ireland. But remember, guys, Southern Ireland, not a part of the United Kingdom, but that's fine. But yeah, the Irish, they love Guinness. I love Guinness too. And I know that there's a lot of... the interesting thing, it's like I mentioned in a very emotional, quite drunk tweet that I made during Overture rehearsal last year. British people love beer, especially, you know, a lot of ladies love beer. But in particular, British men go crazy for beer. They will drink a lot of beer. Beer is very much, I think, the most common drink for people in the UK to have. But most of the popular beer that you would have in the UK is not British at all. If you go to a pub, you might find, because I like lager. Lager is my favorite. My dad's more into IPA, and a lot of IPA is British because there are more independent beers that you can get that are IPA, hoppy, and all of that. But lagers, they tend to come from abroad. Asahi, we have, it doesn't taste as good as Asahi from Japan or while you're in Japan, but we have Asahi in the UK as well. San Miguel from the Philippines is very common. Kronenbourg 1664 is from France. We have a lot of that in the UK. That actually I think is my favorite lager for me personally, although I do love Asahi. My favorite black beer is Sapporo Black, and I hope I can go to Sapporo at some point and go to the brewery, because that's kind of a dream of mine. I love Sapporo Black so much. There was a lot, actually, I'm remembering now, on the street we lived on when I was at university, and this is also when I first joined Niji in my first sort of 6 months in NIJISANJI. I lived with my roommates, and just down the road from us there was this it was owned by a Korean family, but it was a supermarket with a lot of food from across Asia, and it was very, 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 very cheap, and it was very, very good, and there was all sorts that you could get from that. I mean, you could get a bundle of negi for like 20p. You could get, it was great to go and sort of get inspired. That was where I got my, my trusty wok and all of that, and, season that and everything like that. That was where I got my wok. That was where, you could get goose fat for cooking, and you could get cooking sake, and you could get all of this kind of stuff. And that was really, really nice. And I kind of forgot what I was going to say about it, but it was nice. It was a nice one. Ichiko, thank you very much for the 5 gifted. Thank you so much. New background. I've had this background for a while. There's a chair in here, but I'm not using that right now because I'm in the middle of the screen. This is the classroom for today, guys. This is the classroom. Kind of forgot why I brought that up, but it was nice. It was a good one. You get frozen karage there, takoyaki. Some of my roommates love takoyaki. I personally don't really go for takoyaki that much at all. I don't really like it. But then I've only ever had frozen takoyaki from the UK, and I've not had authentic takoyaki from Japan. So maybe next time I'm in Japan, I should have takoyaki. Now, that is true. It is the UK especially. I think a lot of food is becoming very expensive. The cost of living is definitely going up every single year. We can only hope that something changes with that. But it does make me, because it's not just because of the exchange rate. The pound is a very strong currency, but a lot of it is because what I love about Japan is that a lot of independently owned businesses have really nice, affordable prices for a reason, and that comes as a point of pride. There are a lot of British businesses that do that too, particularly family-owned shops and restaurants and so on. But I think if I was to say the thing that I dislike the most about the UK, it's that it has, especially in more middle class, more developed parts of the country, especially London. It has been so done up, and it has been so, gentrified that it's all chain restaurants. You have all of your chain fast food. You got your McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, and beyond. You have there are these big, like, more expensive food chains, like Zizi is a big pizza chain, Pizza Express. Obviously, Wagamama for Asian food is a big one. It's mostly Japanese, but they have other Asian food as well. There's all kinds of these chain restaurants that especially if you're in central London, unless you're looking for a place that is really expensive, small family-owned businesses are becoming few and far between. And I think that's something that I've really enjoyed on Dishoom. Dishoom is really good. I mean, Dishoom, it's spreading a lot, but Dishoom is delicious. But obviously it couldn't compare to, a passion-run Indian restaurant. But I think that's something I love about having been to Japan, and it's something I hope to experience in other countries as well, is Japan has a lot of independently run eateries owned by individuals or by families, ramen joints and hole-in-the-wall sort of soba, all of that kind of stuff, anything that you can go in for a quick meal. I really love seeing it, and the prices are fair, the food is delicious. It does make me nostalgic. It makes me really want to go back to Japan. I've not been back for some time, not since Christmas, and I'd really like to go back again at some point soon. I do have plans to return to Japan later this year. There is some stuff I'm doing later on, but I do miss it a lot. Ippudo. Yes, I have tried Ippudo. That's a restaurant chain in the UK that actually, compared to Wagamama, it's a lot more authentic. Ippudo definitely tastes a lot more like authentic Japanese ramen. Obviously it's not the actual full-blown experience, but it's definitely closer. It's definitely closer than what other people in the UK have experienced at places like Wagamama. Although I will say, I'm not trying to shit on Wagamama as a brand, because I do like the food there. They do have some really good stuff. I like the grilled chicken ramen they do, even because it's quite comforting. It's hearty, which is what I like a lot. What I like about a lot of other British food, as we've seen today. I really like there's all sorts that I go for. I like the ramen and the teppanyaki they have, even though it's not authentic, it's still tasty. Ramen with that thin piece of meat and egg. That's the one thing. I really don't like the tea-stained egg in ramen. It's just not for me. I find it a bit much, I guess. Applebee's. I've never been to an Applebee's. My favorite American restaurant, I seem to remember going to Cracker Barrel almost 10 years ago now. Yeah, it would have been almost 10 years ago. I remember going to America and going to Cracker Barrel right after I got off the plane, and I was like, you know what, this is pretty good. And I remember I was chatting with my friends, and then we were, because it was 2017, we were in Cracker Barrel and we were chatting about Overwatch, and then the people from the table over next to us overheard us talking about Overwatch, and they just turned around and joined in the conversation, and suddenly we were talking to this southern couple who were halfway through this giant meal. And he was like, oh yeah, you like Overwatch? Yeah, I made Reaper. Reaper's my favorite. And that's something about American culture that will always fascinate me, is how gregarious people are and how sociable they can be. And especially in the South, with the whole culture of hospitality, how people will just go up and start talking to each other. I know that the tipping culture in America is deeply problematic, and that it basically gives businesses an excuse to pay servers very, very little. So I'm aware that this is a problem, but American service, it works on me, when they're working really hard for those tips and they got a big smile and they're like, hi, what can I get for you today? It does work on me, I gotta say. So that's why, that's why I make sure to tip. But the worst thing is, if you are in America, the fact that tipping culture, people in the UK tip as well, but it's not expected like it is in America. In America, if you don't tip, it's extremely rude and you've wasted the server's time and all that sort of stuff. In America, I gotta be honest, there have been 1 or 2 times where I've completely forgotten to tip because we don't do it in the UK. I mean, you do, but not a requirement. And sometimes when I realize I didn't tip, I feel really bad. I'm like, oh my God, what do I do about that? And you try to sort of call the restaurant and say hi, can I, I know it's not the end of the world, but I'm sure a lot of tourists forget that. I always feel bad. I guess if there's one thing that I wanted to end on, it's this fascinating thing. I mentioned it at the beginning of the stream, but if there's one thing I wanted to, as a former waitress, you can actually make a greater amount from the tip system than you would from a usual salary. Hence why a lot of FOH staff don't try to get rid of it. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess it makes sense. It encourages servers to really gun for it and work hard. But I think if you're in a 9 to 5, the best thing for you is for the salary to be consistent and reliable. I mean, the worst thing would be, working all day and you just deal with stingy bastards who tip you almost nothing. But I guess, if you worked in a place with enough generous people, you could wind up making a ton of money as a server in the US. But yes, what was I going to say? Basically, is what I read about the difference in culture in these parts of the world where they may have primarily grown different crops. I thought it was fascinating because in large parts of Asia, obviously the main crop grown is rice. And rice, to my understanding, is a very high-intensity project, and it requires a lot of specific conditions, and it requires a lot of mastery and hard work. And what this does is it benefits teamwork and it benefits community that are able to support one another through the harvest and through the growing and the harvesting of a rice crop. Whereas in the West, particularly in Europe and in America, wheat is a lot more common, and wheat is a lot easier to grow. Anyone who can afford grain can plant it, and if they have the tools to harvest it, really farming wheat could become a one-man job. And what this has led to over thousands of years is that Western nations have developed this culture of individuality, and Eastern nations have developed this. Obviously, this is not the only factor at play, but Eastern nations develop a culture of tradition, community, and collectivism. And it's so fascinating to me that, in a sense, you can boil all of that down to how we, in ancient history, ate together. How ancestors and to the point where our belief systems come from the way that we have learned to make food. I think it's absolutely fascinating, and that's one of the most brilliant things about learning. It's one of the most brilliant things about life, and one of the most brilliant things about food. Food is an essential part of life. No matter whether it tastes good or bad, you and I have to eat. It's just a fact of life. We must eat, or else we will die. Every culture on earth has found a way to make food, and they have all found a way to make food taste good. And it's what I say about the UK and how we owe the working class a lot for the way that their ingenuity has led to some of the best food in the world. Sausage mash, toad in the hole, in particular pie and mash, right? All stemming from a working class desire to support their own families and a working class desire to have a good meal to support the back-breaking work that they had to do. And we are privileged enough now to benefit from all of that. It's been a really, really valuable experience to celebrate and to get to experience all of those different things. And there was something else that I was going to say. I was going to lead that thought on. Oh, I missed the super. Lays, thank you very much for the super. Used to cook delicious British food for me when he lived in the Philippines. Oh, I'm glad you like Sunday roast. Yeah, well, I mean, that's objectively correct. If I had $1 million, would I spend it? Well, I think, I'd spend a bit of it. If I had $1 million, I'd probably invest 90% of it. I'd probably buy a couple houses or just one really good house for my family, because the UK housing market is an absolute tragedy. I think if I had $1 million, I'd probably buy like a really, really good house in a good area where the house price is likely to go up, and then I would make sure someone in my family, had access to that house, and then that's, assets, that's value passed down to your children and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's kind of what you really need to think about when it comes to wealth. It's so easy to have all of these different things fly at you and say like, oh, you want to spend your money on this? You're not wealthy. You're not wealthy if you don't have a fast car. But the worst thing you can buy with a ton of money is a fast car. A sports car, you should buy a sports car if you don't even blink at the price. That's the only reason. If the first thing you buy, with a massive chunk of your income is a sports car, the value of that car will go down by half the moment it goes out of the shop. If you come into a decent amount of money, you must buy a house. That's the key part of it. It absolutely breaks my heart. It breaks my heart, the median age of a home buyer in at least I believe this might be America, but it wouldn't be surprised me if it was the UK as well. The median age of a home buyer in the UK is 58. People will buy a starter home at 58. It's really tragic. And so if you are privileged enough or fortunate enough to come into enough money, whether you win the lottery or you get lucky in some way or another, if you have the means to buy a house, you should buy a bloody house. It's a big responsibility, but it's the best way to keep yourself and your family and your investments safe, at least in my opinion. That's the reality, but if you can't, don't feel bad, especially if you've got parents. And I know some of my friends have parents who are kind of getting down on them, like, why haven't you bought a house yet? When these are people who have parents that are quite old, and the fact that, about sort of 50, 60 years ago, houses were worth 5% of what they're worth today. A house in a really affluent city that's been really done up and all of that kind of stuff might have cost you 30 grand back in the 1960s or 1970s, and nowadays that would be £1 million house. It's like, oh yeah, I bought my starter house when I was 25, and it's like, okay, buddy, but you didn't, things were different back then. Times have changed. By a guy who bought his house for $30 for a for a fish in a box and a packet of screws. Yeah, I think one of the best things that any government can do for its, and to be fair to the UK, there is a lot of government-owned housing and council housing that is given to a lot of poorer working-class families, and I think that those systems are brilliant, and I'm really, really glad. I think that there's a lot of conversation to be had about the right way to help people escape poverty and to help families grow out of poverty. Obviously, many people in positions of extreme power have a vested interest in keeping people impoverished, which is, a whole nightmare that, hopefully someday we can solve. But when we don't have the power, what can we do? But I think that making sure people are housed is the number one most important thing. And in a world where buying a house is such a nightmare and takes so many decades out of your life, the fact that, there's such a strong council housing system is definitely a really, really big positive about the UK. And it does make me happy that there's that kind of a system in place. No, let's not make the wealth gap bigger. It's big enough. The richest man in the world could afford to give $100 to the entire population of the planet with his net worth. The richest man in the world could afford to give $100 to every single person on Earth currently alive. Really think about that. $100 to everyone who exists on the planet right now. Really think about that. That is a crazy, crazy amount of money. But, so we've had the lesson now, and now you guys are the students that stayed behind at the end of the lesson. You guys are the students that stayed at the end of the lesson, and now you're listening to your teacher get a little political. So, obviously we've got to calm that down a little bit. But it's pretty, it's important to talk about these things. And I think even though it's like, obviously it's important to stay away from stuff that's divisive, but I think as long as having a platform, I do think it's important to spread a little bit of, some more serious messaging sometimes. I definitely feel, I like I've said 1,000 times, I will not graduate ever if I have the chance. You know, I can see myself staying here for like the next decade. I feel very, very comfortable, and I love this job very, very much. But if there's one reason I would, you know, that one thing that I do wish I had the chance to participate in would be more kind of serious political discussion. There's definitely a lot of good that I would love to be able to do by, you know, spreading a lot more. And it can be frustrating to see some of the worst people spreading some of the worst messages free of consequence at the moment. But I don't think that doing so would be worth leaving behind, you know, such an incredible life and community. And it's my kindred, and it's also the support system of this company that I'm a part of. I mean, the fact is I feel very looked after. I feel very cared for, and I feel like I'm a part of something bigger. And I think that's what I've always wanted to be a part of. I've always wanted to be a part of that. So that's more important to me at the moment, I think. Yeah, don't worry. I am not going, no matter how much you might hear through some weird grapevine somewhere, any day now. No. This is home. This is home. It always has been and it always will be. So don't worry. You know, if you can really, really afford to get comfy with me. I promise you, I am not going anywhere. You're stuck with us, and you're stuck with me too. Gorilla Glued here. Yeah, that's the one. Aww. There's something else I was going to mention about food, you know, and about culture and all of that earlier, but I kind of forgot. Kind of forgot what I was going to say. We've been talking about a lot. We've had a really, really interesting discussion. Angelia, thank you for the super. Big gorilla monkey hug. Big hug from the monkey. Sunny, thank you for the super. Me dessert. Call me spotted dick the way I'm a tasty dessert. Oh yeah, I wrote the scripts for some YouTube shorts to do with, you know, teaching English words. I like the idea of doing YouTube shorts like a word of the day. So, and it's funny because, I mean, I wrote this one into a YouTube short because the moment I brought that up on stream, somebody said Wagwan, and I was like, okay, all right, well, yeah, let me do a YouTube show explaining why people in the UK say Wagwan and all of that. And it's just fascinating. I think it would be interesting. But I also wonder, since I'm noticing how popular it is to do these little English lessons, whether it's the English language or it's English culture. I do wonder if focusing specifically on very British things, I should do it for the time being, but I also want to be able to teach more about, I think literature is good. Do you want to know something else I really want to do? Now, this means that, to be fair, I do have to finish reading Dorian Gray at some point. I think the only reason I haven't done it is because every time I get to my schedule, I forget that I need to do that, and then I do the schedule, and then it just gets to the next week, and I forget again. So I do have to finish Dorian Gray. I would really like to read Wuthering Heights as well. After I saw and really, really did not like the film, I am very, very curious, because I have not read it myself. I'm very curious about the original Wuthering Heights novel by Emily Bronte, so I would love to give that a look and read it for you guys as well. Yeah, I think kind of focusing on that sort of content is going to be very rewarding for me, you know, getting to, because I love, you know, like I've gone on and on about, is it in public domain? Yeah, Emily Bronte passed away in like the 1830s, I think, so it's definitely in the public domain. Yeah, worldwide. It was first published 1847. Yeah, no, that's like 170 years ago. It's the book, from what I've heard about it following the film. I was totally unfamiliar with the book until the film came out, and then a lot of people were talking about how it about how it like didn't really follow the book in that much of a way. I've heard that apparently there's a whole second half to the book where the film just sort of ends, which is crazy. So there's a lot of it that I won't even be spoiled on. Oliver Twist, oh, classic. Yeah, Charles Dickens. My favorite Charles Dickens has got to be Great Expectations. I love Great Expectations. Definitely my favorite. I love the film. And I did read the book a long time ago, and the film is very old, but I love it. I love it. Yukimi, thank you for the super. I see a British fair happening. Ooh, I hope you get a chance to check that out. That sounds really, really good. British fair. Oliver Twist, yeah, obviously all classics. I wonder, is Roald Dahl? I don't think Roald Dahl is public domain. No, Roald Dahl died in like until 2060. Oh man, I love Roald Dahl so much. And he died in 1990. Oh yeah, no, it's going to be 2060 until any of his works are public domain. Man, I love Roald Dahl. I'd love to read. My favorite Roald Dahl, obviously Fantastic Mr. Fox. I love the Wes Anderson film, but my favorite Roald Dahl book to read, because I've read them all, is A Giraffe, the Pelly and Me. There's just something about it that is incredibly sweet and touching to me. I don't know. I always, when I read that book, I remember just feeling very, very sweet and very happy after I read that one. Although a better, longer book of Roald Dahl's is Danny Champion of the World. That's a really nice one. Matilda. Oh my God, Matilda. Yeah, of course Matilda is peak as well. And I know a lot of you are big fans of the film. Miss Trunchbull, very iconic character. Yeah, I mean, Fantastic Mr. Fox has become so iconic because of the Wes Anderson adaptation that a lot of people, I'm not surprised that some people forget that it's a Roald Dahl. The most iconic is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, of course. And I do love Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Oh no, actually, I take it back. My favorite Roald Dahl is the BFG. The BFG is the sweetest story. I love the BFG a lot. In particular, I believe, when did the BFG film, not the 2016 one, the BFG, 1989, the 1989 BFG film, the animated film, I have so much nostalgia for that. I remember seeing it and just being so sucked in by it at the time. It's got a very nostalgic quality to it. All the sounds, there's something about the animation and particularly the sound effects that feels very of the time, and it kind of sounds like an audiobook in a way. You can, it's very, is it BBC? It feels like a BBC thing. It was made for TV. What was the production company? Cosgrove Hall Production. I was ITV. It was an ITV thing made for TV. I was just obsessed with that. I remember seeing it on TV and I was like, I just thought it was really, really sweet and a lovely adaptation of the book. Sunny, thank you for the super. If you ever read Frankenstein, the book, oh, I'd love to read Frankenstein. I would love to read Frankenstein. I love the story, but I've never read it myself. I'm familiar with it, but I've never read the full book. Yeah, 1818. Frankenstein. And I loved the Guillermo del Toro film. I thought it was brilliant. And thank God for Jacob Elordi's sake that he was in Frankenstein this last year, as well as being in Wuthering Heights. Because if he was just in Wuthering Heights, man, that would have been so sad. But thankfully, my main memory of Jacob Elordi this year is him as Frankenstein's monster, and he was excellent. He was very, very good. And, ironically, I think that in another Emerald Fennell film, Jacob Elordi was brilliant in Saltburn as well. He was a very believable character, a really down-to-earth performance, extremely kind of believable, mainly. And I thought he was brilliant in Saltburn. So it's very strange to see, him be so bad in Wuthering Heights. But, it's clearly just a bit of a misfire creatively. I've enjoyed the work creatively of all, everybody involved with Wuthering Heights. I've enjoyed other things that they have done. And I'm aware, like, creative misfires, they do happen. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I'm sure, a lot. I've heard people enjoyed Wuthering Heights. Some people liked the film, and if you did, that makes me. I'm glad you liked it. It just wasn't for me. Yeah, Frankenstein. I'm just curious how long the book is, because if I read it on stream, obviously it's a commitment. Frankenstein book length. Oh, it's not. Yeah, no, I reckon. Yeah, 75,000 words. That's not so bad. Around 4 to 5 hours. If I really locked in for one stream, we could read Frankenstein. Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I think that's a really, really good idea. Maybe if we finish Dorian Gray, then we can read Frankenstein, and then if I'm having fun with the reading streams, we can do Dorian Gray as well. No, not Dorian Gray. Wuthering Heights. Tomo, thank you for the super. Today I learned a lot about British cuisine. Oh, thank you. I'm really happy I could have taught you something today, and I hope that you had an okay time following on with my language. I'm trying to speak slower and be easier to understand, so I'm glad that you could have had a good time today. Hakuma, thank you. So happy to have you by my side. You're not tying me down. Love to try it. Love to go to the UK someday. Yeah, there's a lot of good food to try here. I really, really like it, but obviously I've got to try lots of food from the rest of the world as well. I wonder what else, if there was a British culture lesson. Something that kind of occurred to me today. It's unfortunate because I don't really follow football, but football is such a big part of British life. It's all around you, I feel like doing some sort of thing about football would probably be kind of worthwhile to learn about. Even if you're not interested in football, I think that some stories and some kind of team narratives would be interesting to follow along with. I mean, especially given the violence and how passionate people get about football in the UK. I will never forget on the night of the Euro Cup final, I was out in town and I didn't realize that it was the Euro Cup final. It was England versus, I think, Italy. And I was just walking around and suddenly everyone is out. Every pub is filled with people crowding around the TVs watching the game. And then I was there in the middle of it all when we lost, and everyone was that. I think that was one of the most surreal and fascinating nights of my life. That's it. Everyone was chanting, "It's coming home." 3 lines on a shirt. It's coming home. Everybody believed it was going home, and I was there in the middle of it. Thankfully, I was not. I mean, that area has now become pretty run down. But at the time, it's like no one was being violent, but it was definitely chaotic. It was a very surreal time because I was completely uninvolved. I would have liked for England to win, just to kind of see people celebrate. But it was fascinating as well to see how everybody reacted to the UK losing. The funniest thing that I saw was this group of people who were all crowded around an apartment. So there was a street with some shops on it, and then built above the shops there are buildings where the people live in, masonettes. And at the top floor, on like the third floor, there's a guy leaning out of his window waving an Italian flag, and there's a crowd of about 12 blokes down there with the red faces and the beer bellies and everything, who are all like throwing their beer cans and yelling at him like, put that shit away, what the fuck are you doing, and all that. And that was pretty funny to watch. And I remember when I was this was funny as well, when I was on my way home, I was walking through a park, and it was late, it was dark at that point. I was just walking home, and on a bridge over a little river, there was a young couple who were having a snog. Do you guys know what snogging is? That's a word we use in the UK for a really intimate tonguey kiss. If you kiss with tongue in the UK, a lot of the time we say snog. That's you have like a and there was a young couple, and they were having a proper snog on this bridge under the moonlight, and it was very romantic. And so obviously I was just giving their privacy walking past, and then I noticed there's a guy wearing a football shirt who's like kind of close by to me, and he goes over and he walks past them, and he goes and he suddenly starts clapping, goes, it's coming home, right next to them. And then they broke apart and they laughed, and they thought it was really funny. But that was just kind of a really surreal experience to see this guy think, I need to interrupt these two having an intimate moment so I can get them excited about football. But thankfully those two found it funny, so I just kind of chuckled and went on my merry way. Yeah, no, it's a good time. There's a lot to enjoy. Peak British experience, I think that, yes, that was, you had a lot. I had the opportunity to teach you guys a lot of, teach you guys a little bit of slang, and also about the "it's coming home" sort of slogan. There's lots to learn. Snog, marry, push over the cliff. I've never heard snog, marry, push over the cliff. I've heard snog, marry, avoid, which is the more tame version of fuck, marry, kill. Yeah, some people did snog, marry, avoid, and that was, obviously it's just kind of thought like, well, everybody, the adults are having a more serious conversation about who they would murder. Avoid, yeah. Couldn't really experience. Well, I will say, if there's one thing that I understand about the rest of the world, it's that football hooliganism, football culture, all of that, no matter how intense it gets in the UK, it will always be more in Latin America. From what I've seen, the football in the UK is a very it's a great time. Everybody gets really passionate, and if you are around someone who likes to follow football, they will be watching the telly, and they will be they'll be watching the game, and then if their team scores, they will stand up and shout, "Come on! Back of the fucking net, let's go, come on!" And they don't care about how loud they're being, which is charming in its own way and a little frustrating in others. And sometimes it gets really, really crazy when there's a big game. Latin America, from what I've seen, football is religion. I've never seen worship of a non-religious figure like I have seen worship for Messi and Ronaldo and these other players. I mean, Messi might as well be a religious figure at this point. People light shit on fire, and football hooligans light shit on fire in the UK too. Just not as much. That's how it is with American football. Interesting. I don't know if I've ever really seen Americans celebrate or worship an American football player in the way that Latin Americans, or particularly obviously Messi, Argentinian, the way the Argentinians worship Messi, the way that Aisha Speed talks about Ronaldo, Messi, Ankara Messi, goal. I love the edit of that where Messi's really tiny. I've seen that video too many times. There are some mega legends. Nowadays, not so much in American football yet. The only American football player I can really think of is Tom Brady. I don't even know if but he doesn't what's going on? I heard he got divorced somewhat recently. Is he still a quarterback, or is he retired now? Former professional quarterback. That's the only football player I could mention. Now, basketball, on the other hand, there are some real fucking legends in the NBA. Obviously, the two reigning champions, Michael Jordan passing the mantle to LeBron James. I'd say that those two definitely have, LeBron definitely at the very least has that sort of legend status. I don't know, probably not quite to the level of Messi and Ronaldo, because I think that football, more so around the world, is such a religious experience and such a huge community experience. But definitely within America, LeBron is definitely sort of at that level of LeBron James. Scream if you love British cuisine. Why am I talking about football? Well, I had this thought that football is such a big part of British culture that if I want to keep teaching people about British culture, I should talk about football at some point. But I don't really know football all that well, so maybe I should interview my dad. I should get my dad on. He likes football. Okay, anybody here? Anybody here who knows football even a little bit? Which team do you support? If you support a UK football team, you got to let me know, because my dad, there only used to be, I guess, some sort of disagreement within the family. There used to be some disagreement within the family because my dad supports Chelsea, whereas his side of the family, particularly my late nan, God rest her soul, she was an Arsenal fan. Man U, a lot of Manchester United fans. Yeah, that makes sense. Liverpool. Yeah, and Man United is the big one. Man United with who was on. I mean, I don't have to. I don't have to hold any pretense that I know anything. Manchester United. That was Rooney, wasn't it? Manchester United. Rooney was the big player for those guys. I'm pretty sure. Oh, it looks like Arsenal's on top right now. I don't know, the Premier League, I don't really understand, but you got more points for Arsenal's winning at the moment. Aston Villa, had a couple friends who support Aston Villa. Manchester United, best players of all time. Yeah, who we got? Bobby Charlton, that was the big one. Of course, yeah, back in '67. Yeah, my dad goes on about Bobby Charlton all the time. Yeah, a lot of people don't really recognize. On Ronaldo. Ronaldo was also on Man U for a while. Funny that this website has him all the way down at 15. And David Beckham as well. Oh my God, David Beckham. I mean, I think David Beckham was definitely, as far as the UK goes, he's definitely the most famous British football player. Most British? What am I saying? The most famous British footballer. Is that what I said? I've been streaming for too long. Definitely the most famous British football player, but I don't really know that much about football, and my brain is starting to turn into soup. But I hope you've enjoyed the lesson today. I think I'm gonna call it there. But we've just been kind of rambling about whatever the fuck for a while. But I do think I need to nip off now. I think I need to take a bit of a rest. I think I just want to make sure I eat some good food because this stream has made me pretty hungry. But either way, hope you guys had a really, really good time today. Tomorrow, I'm gonna do a stream on Bilibili. It's gonna be another quote-unquote English lesson, but it's going to be more of, a classic old RP ASMR where I'm going to be playing the role of a private English tutor who's going to come over and teach you guys some English. So I think that should be nice if you want to show up for that one. And then the day after, we're finally, and I have checked. I've got my iPad, and I've got the adapter to stream it with. We're going to play Love in Deep Space on Saturday. Happy Saturday. So we're going to finally play it after I put it off for ages. So we're going to see what that's like. I'll finally get to see Silas face to face and understand what all the hype is about. Ichiko, thank you very much for the super. I love you too. Thank you very much for the super. Don't forget to charge it. I will not forget to charge it. I'm going to charge it. Flip camera. Flip camera. But yeah, that's going to be all. I will see all of you guys tomorrow. Oh, karaoke. Yeah, of course there'll be a karaoke after party. I've been practicing. And I had to just stop myself from immediately breaking into one of those songs that I've got I've been thinking really hard. About which songs that Solomon and Alice would like the best. So it's definitely going to be a lot of interesting story parts to talk about, a lot of interesting character stuff. You know, real quick before I go, one thing I do want to say that's been really interesting is that even though during District V, it felt like I wanted to do more character development for Solomon, I've loved seeing a lot of you guys run with the ball a little bit and kind of analyze his character after the fact and look at certain scenes and say, you know, the whole thing about him like releasing his emotions and his grief through moments of high adrenaline, and the moment how it's like he kind of comes to life in moments of high adrenaline. I think that that's a really interesting sort of perspective for his character that I never really considered while I was playing. And I think that's the beauty of RP. That's the beauty of these characters, is that they just take shape on their own just as you play. Ichiko, thank you for the super. Say, thank you for the super. Love you. Mwah, mwah. Fern, thank you for the super. And Angelia, thank you for the super as well. Aini, mwah. Love you both. I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye, guys. Oh, shit. Play the music. There you go. Okay. Good night.